what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
And we are live. Greetings to our loyal WFYL listeners around the world. Welcome back to your Philadelphia live stream, only on the Freedom Station. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in once again, because you still have the right to hear and the right to be heard. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike G. As always, with me are Philly Chris, Russ the producer, and Liberty Lee. And you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters. And you can listen to our program every Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So let's be heard. I want to remind our listeners about the powerhouse lineup we've got here at the Fox News Radio WFYL family. We've got Ben Shapiro bringing you the Ben Shapiro Show weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. We got Scott Adams coming at you with the Scott Adams Show weekdays from 9 a.m. until noon. Second Amendment advocate Dana Lash coming at you weekdays from noon right up until Ben Shapiro. And finally, we want to give a big warm welcome to the WFYL family, to Michael Knowles coming at you with the Michael Knowles Show weekdays from 5 to 6 p.m. So don't forget to tune in and show him some love. And with that, you know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Hit it, Russ.
You know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
I want to remind our listeners that you can participate in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas throughout the entire week by visiting MikeGinTheMorning.com. What is it called, Philly Chris?
MikeGinTheMorning.com.
Grumpy Russ, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, what's the name of the website? Where can they participate in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas?
MikeGinTheMorning.com.
That is correct. How about our special guest, Richard Roberts? Where can they tune in?
MikeGinTheMorning.com.
Very good. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your barber, tell your Uncle Jerry, tell anybody who will listen to tune on in and check us out at MikeGinTheMorning.com. I did want to mention something. If you check out our YouTube page, and our listeners, our faithful, loyal listeners, know a lot about the problems we've been having with the tech overlords over at YouTube censoring us and deplatforming us. But if you check out our YouTube page, we managed to get back on. You can still see us there, for now at least. I know we've got a lot of listeners who participate. They watch the live stream by going to MikeGinTheMorning.com and scrolling down to Twitch. Some people are checking us out on Rumble. Of course, we've got 100,000 listeners over the airwaves in the greater five-county area, as well as Delaware, parts of New Jersey. But if you want to check us out on YouTube, we are still there for the time being. Don't forget to click that little notification bell. I had a lot of people tell me, Mike, I'm subscribed, and I don't get any notifications when these videos come out. It's because subscribing is no longer enough, apparently. You've not only got to click subscribe on the YouTube channel, you've got to make sure that little bell is filled in. Otherwise, the subscription means nothing, I suppose, right? So make sure you do that. Thank you for checking in. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. We've got a very, very special guest joining us today. We've got attorney Richard Roberts. And attorney Richard Roberts is a criminal defense attorney, and I've been working with him for my entire career. He's a gun lawyer who I can have conversations with and doesn't look at me like I've got 10 heads. I really enjoy getting to spend time with this gentleman because he's got a tremendous amount of knowledge in terms of gun law. I'm blessed to be able to work with him. I know a lot of the U.S. Law Shield members recognize him from giving seminars throughout the Lehigh Valley, the Harrisburg area, the greater Philadelphia area, up in the Poconos. He's really been all over the place, and he's been doing this for a long time. So, Rich, I want to say thank you for joining us. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, I got to say something at the outset before we get into things. You're dressed nicely today, right? You got a nice shirt on, a nice jacket, and I'm over here in my black t-shirt and hat. And we almost had the opposite sort of thing going on Monday, right? We can share this with everybody.
We could share that. I thought it was amusing. You came over to my office to do a virtual visit with one of our clients, and then I didn't have to be in court that day, so I was just in a button-down shirt and khakis, and you showed up in the full suit. And I made fun of you because I didn't realize that a virtual visit with our client necessitated the three-piece suit. I believe your reaction was, I always get concerned because when I show up here, you're always dressed up. If I'm not dressed up, you make fun of me for the rest of the week.
Right. Yeah. So you made fun of me because I was dressed too nice on that occasion. And if I weren't dressed up, you would have made fun of me. How could I win with this?
You can't outdress me.
There's no winning in terms of fashion with Richard Roberts. This is one of the best dressed attorneys I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Props to Brian Sitchko, honorable mention out there in Pittsburgh. I think he actually got voted by some newspaper best dressed attorney in the greater Pittsburgh area. But yeah, what I can say is that our client only bothered to put on an orange jumpsuit. So I guess I was doing better than him. We were both doing better than he was, right?
Sounds like
yeah,
trouble.
we were upset when we saw him. Yeah, we were upset when we saw him in court the next day. I was like, you couldn't put on a shirt and tie? What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Right. So, Rich, you know, a lot of our listeners are familiar with my background in terms of firearms, meaning growing up in Brooklyn, you're not familiar with the concept of a law-abiding gun owner. And then going out to Oklahoma, making my way back to Pennsylvania, and making this my living, what I do from the minute I wake up till the minute I go to sleep. Now, you, very much like myself, this is a very big part of your practice. I'd say, except for a few things, this is really what you do from the minute you wake up and the minute you go to sleep as well. But you were raised in the Lehigh Valley, isn't that correct?
Yep, born and raised, Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Now, Allentown, it's not New York because you've got Pennsylvania's laws, but it's also not exactly the country. So what was your exposure to law-abiding gun owners growing up? Because you really grew up, you're a city guy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. No, I grew up in Allentown. I grew up in the city. We started in Center City when I was very young. We moved to the east side of Allentown when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and grew up on the east side of Allentown. Anybody who's from the area knows Staley's Bar. It's a famous bar on the east side. I literally grew up 4 houses down from there. My mother still lives there to this day in a house I grew up in.
God bless her. And
Awesome.
When was it that you were exposed to the concept of gun ownership from a lawful perspective?
So my father was a Vietnam veteran. He was in the United States Marine Corps, served 2 tours in Vietnam. And I think he brought that concept of law-abiding gun owners home with him. Obviously, he was there for protection of the family. Allentown wasn't always the best place to grow up in. I don't think it was as bad, but I think it's anybody who grows up in an area like that, you never think it is as bad as people who look in it from the outside.
Right.
But he was big on making sure the family was protected. And his big thing was, we talked about police and things like that. And he said, well, what you have to understand about police is they're certainly there. They help protect everyone. They're a necessary component of a civil society. But what you have to remember is they're reactionary. Police are rarely, if ever, there before something happens. Police show up when they're called, when there's a report of some crime going on, or they happen to see a crime in progress when they're out on patrol. So my father was big that in order to protect something when something happens or before something happens, you had to protect yourself. And firearms were a way to do that, equalize the playing field, and making sure that you were able to protect his family. I had 2 brothers, my mother. So when we were growing up, that was his job. He, took that from his Marine Corps experience, his Vietnam experience, that it was his job to, protect his family. And that's what he did.
Oh, I understand that he is no longer with us. God bless him. And, a lot of us are very thankful for his service because it's because of guys like him that we're able to exercise our constitutional freedoms. We've got a lot of Vietnam veterans who are listeners of this program, and just wanted to say that, make note of that. So,
Yeah,
Rich.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, we're tripping on each other again. Rich, I
More
do want to.
organized when we're in court. The judge kind of looks at us and we know when to speak.
Yeah, you want to tell everybody our nickname when we're in court?
Oh yeah, we were at. I don't know who gave it to us, but they call us the Justice Brothers.
The Justice Brothers. That's right.
That was not
It's a good
solicited.
name.
They were like, "Oh, we got the Justice Brothers," and then I laughed, and then we heard it from different judges. You realize it's a small community, so the Justice Brothers. We had a good week this week, so
That's
that was
right.
Mike G was going. Yeah, Justice Brothers, a good 24 hours.
Justice
it was a
Brothers
really good
strike
week so
again.
far. That's right. That's right.
We worked a lot of cases together over the years. We started our career at the same firm, and out of the gate, you weren't focused on firearms law in and of itself. I've been doing this from the very beginning, but you had a real focus on some very serious criminal defense work, some very high-profile cases like the Hugney case. What got you interested in becoming a criminal defense attorney?
Well, when it comes to the criminal defense area, I always found it attractive because I like, honestly, the competition. I like the challenge. I like the defense of individuals who are accused of crimes by the government. Certainly understanding that they have a right to a defense and they have a right to effective and good representation. And I eventually interned at the firm that we met each other at while I was in law school. And, I didn't really have an idea that's what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a trial attorney. I knew I wanted to argue cases. Doing contracts and a lot of the transactional work was not something that appealed to me. I think I have too energetic personality to sit in front of a computer all day. But when I got to the criminal defense, James Hugney, the case that you mentioned, was really one of the first cases that I was assigned as a law clerk. And I remember this huge file in front of me, and it was from a gentleman who was in jail at that point longer than I had been on the earth. He went in the mid 1970s, and I was born in the early 80s. He'd literally been in prison longer than I'd been on the earth, and I trudged through it, and I looked through it, and I learned about arson investigations and fire investigations, and I come to our former boss, and I said, "We got an issue here. I don't think this guy did this." And it went through that way, and we went through it, and eventually we got him released from incarceration after 30 plus years in prison. And at that point, what I realized was there's more than just him. There's a lot of individuals falsely accused in prison, and I wanted to make sure that every person accused of a crime got effective representation. And I thought that I had the ability to do so. And I've been doing it my whole career. Trial attorney, there's nothing else I'd rather do.
Do you think people realize that there are people who are in prison for decades like that for something that they didn't do?
Not many of them. Not many of them. I mean, just because they find it to be a system. I think the biggest challenge as a defense attorney is a lot of times you hear, the innocent till proven guilty. I always laugh when I hear that outside because there's one person in the courtroom next to me or next to Mike and I if we're doing a case together. And come on, the jury looks at him. They're instructed not to, but everybody understands looking at that as a person who accused someone. Why would he be arrested if he did nothing wrong? Which is always a hurdle I have to run over. And I think that the toughest idea when I get into a jury room or when I get in front of a jury is trying to make them understand that just because he's sitting there, just because he's been accused of something doesn't mean he did anything wrong. And especially when you take cases where somebody's been convicted of a crime already, it's a lot to get that overturned. Even when it comes to judges, prosecutors will fight you. And we've all seen stories on the news where prosecutors are like, I did nothing wrong, and there's complete DNA exculpatory evidence. So, I mean, it's always an uphill climb. I know there's a lot of prosecutors who say, they do have the burden technically, but I don't think that burden is as heavy a lift in many cases as they think.
And it's more of a practical thing than a legal thing, right?
Right. Because people are not going to think, well, we trust the police. They did their job. They investigated. This must be the guy. And I think it's important. And the way I try to approach a lot of cases, and I know Mike and I have talked about this, is I try not to, and except if the circumstances justify it, to attack the police, attack the prosecutor. I come up, I'm like, listen, people make mistakes every day. A gentleman once told me there's only one perfect person ever on this world. He lived 2,000 years ago. Nobody's perfect. People make mistakes. And, at the end of the day, if you find my client not guilty, he didn't do something wrong, Doesn't mean the prosecutor's a bad person. Doesn't mean the police is a bad person. Sometimes people just make mistakes. And I think to get that through a juror's head is tough because they don't
Absolutely.
want to disbelieve police. They just want to. I mean, the most terrifying question on a juror questionnaire, Mike can certainly talk about this, is would you believe a police officer simply because he's a police officer? And 90% of the people say yes. And, police officers are human beings like the rest of us. So they make mistakes. They may not tell the truth. They may miss things. And it's tough as a defense attorney to get into that. But although those hurdles exist, I really enjoy that because it's something I do. And I think there's a lot of criminal defense attorneys. If you look at it, there's not a lot of good ones. And I try to be one of the good ones and represent our clients effectively.
Rich, you said 90% of the people would say yes. And what percentage of the other 10% aren't being 100% honest?
That's probably all of them. Because
Right?
then they go, there's nobody who says no. No, except for me. I get called for jury duty. I had to be the only one who circled. Do you believe him more just because police officer? No, I do.
All right.
And everybody's like, no, I think they're just the same. I'm like, yeah, I don't believe you. But I mean, I've been relatively successful. So people look at my career. I know I've been doing cases with Mike. We're pretty successful as well. So they go, well, these guys are pretty successful. I don't know if they're really telling the truth, but I'm telling you, it's just the fight that you're in.
And why do people take it as and maybe you're not the person to answer this. Maybe this is not an answer that's easily given, but it seems strange to me that you've got people on the right who are very much for personal freedom and don't want the government intruding into our lives, right? Want to be in charge of our own destiny, but seem to be willing to give a lot of that up for the purposes of the police in a lot of these cases. And I find that a lot of the law abiding gun owners that I deal with, not all of them, but a significant percentage of them, don't realize what exactly they're up against until they find themselves in that situation where they're being charged with a crime and they literally thought it could never happen to them. Where is that disconnect where law abiding gun owners don't realize that there's a reason why our founding fathers put these protections in place to protect us, protect our God-given and inalienable rights from the government?
Well, I think that disconnects because the law-abiding gun owners that I deal with and clients that I deal with, especially in that area of the law, they're the good guys. They are the good guys. They've done the right things their whole lives. They've wore their seatbelt, drive the speed limit. They cross at a crosswalk. They're doing everything right. And then all of a sudden, they could never imagine it happens to them, right? They see things on TV, they see news clips, and they go, well, he deserves it. It's never going to happen to me. Until all of a sudden, they're calling me. And then we've had more than one occasion, especially with the law-abiding gun owners. And I try to tell them that, you've done the things right. You've done everything right your whole life. But you have to understand that as a law-abiding gun owner, you exercise your right to carry that firearm. The law enforcement, district attorneys are going to look at you with a more critical eye than almost anybody else on the street. And it's not right. It shouldn't be that way. But I mean, we can talk about that all day, but it's the way it is. And I think that when they have a disconnect, I am the good guy. I'm the law-abiding gun owner. I'm doing the right thing. I think they let their guard down a little bit. And unfortunately, when they end up calling us, sometimes it's a little late and we're having to clean up something that we shouldn't have to, but it's the way life is. And I think the way it should be and the way it is often disconnect, not just for our law-abiding gun owner friends, but I think everybody.
Sure. And they don't do themselves any favors by forfeiting their rights, right? Ultimately,
Right.
they feel like they have to cooperate with the police and make statements that will ultimately incriminate them. It just always blows my mind because we've got people who think the standard is, well, I can talk if I think I've done nothing wrong. We've all seen the Miranda warnings on television from the time that we're very, very young, right? They say anything you say can and will be used against you. They don't say we might use it against you. We might use it to help you out. Of course not, right? A lot of that would be inadmissible anyhow. They can't use it to help you out. But for whatever reason, you sit down across from this law-abiding citizen and otherwise intelligent people, and the police tell them, listen, I want you to say something to me that I can use against you in court and put you in jail for the rest of your life. And otherwise intelligent people say, okay, let me help you out. Sure.
I don't think they exactly explain it that way, but I think that goes into their mindset that I am good. I'm the law-abiding gun owner. I've done nothing wrong. If I tell them what I did, I've done nothing wrong. I got nothing to worry about. And the unfortunate thing is, more than knowing the law, knowing what you can do, what you can't do, it's that ability to talk yourself into trouble. I've seen it numerous and numerous times. Nothing here, talk themselves, because an officer is trained to let you talk, right? I give the spiel. There's two reasons an officer ever wants to talk to you after an incident. There's two. One is he doesn't have enough evidence and he's looking for you to sink yourself by talking, saying something that doesn't match with the physical evidence with other witnesses. Or two, he's got enough evidence to charge you and now he just wants the gravy on top, make his life easier. I mean, I've seen it all the time. The worst thing you get to, I'm like, you're reading a police report, you're looking at the facts. I'm like, oh, okay, well, oh, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Well, I got him back to the station, read him his Miranda warnings. He agreed to talk to me. And I go, I just don't want to read the rest of this police report because it was good. And I'm sure the rest of it is not going to be good. And lo and behold, what does it turn into? It turns into a problem. And I think what the disconnect is people understand that, you know, especially with the Second Amendment rights, we have a God-given right to carry and bear firearms, defend ourselves, defend our families. But they also seem to forget that you have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and a right to counsel. And they seem to think that those are just as important as the Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment. And I think you have to understand what your rights are. And I also think the disconnect believes that if I'm sitting there and I'm quiet, I look guilty. So let me try to talk.
Right. And I ask that question at seminars all the time. I say, why do you think it is that, you know, these career criminals that I've dealt with, you know, I've been to SCI Phoenix dealing with inmates on death row for cases. Why do you think it is that these career criminals know to lawyer up and shut up? I had a guy tell me because they're guilty. No, that's not, that's not what it comes down. Really what it comes down to is it ain't their first rodeo, right? These guys have been there. They've done that. They got the T-shirt on the way out and they understand the way this system works. It's strange to me to think that for people who are law-abiding gun owners, and a lot of times it's people on the right, not necessarily a right or left issue, but a lot of times you got people on the right who, for whatever, any other aspect, are willing to give the government the middle finger for all intents and purposes. But when it comes to this, they're not willing to assert their rights because they feel like it makes them look like they're guilty, or only the guilty people exercise these constitutional rights. That's nonsense. Just the way you don't want people saying only, you know, bad people exercise the Second Amendment. Why would you think that only guilty people would exercise the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment? It makes no sense when it comes down to it, does it?
No, it doesn't make any sense at all. They talk about, I think, our friends on the right with the Second Amendment. We're law-abiding gun owners. Why are you trying to restrict my right to buy the firearms that I want for recreation or simply because I feel like it and I want to protect myself and my family? And there's no reason for you to do that. Those other rights exist for a reason. I think the founding fathers, we all like in this great country, put those rights in there for a reason. They had an experience with a tyrannical government. And the First Amendment's there, the Second, the Third, which nobody talked about, the Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, 8, 9, and 10. The first 10 are there for a reason. And I know the late Justice Scalia, who I love to death, especially as a criminal defense attorney. He might be a criminal defendant's best friend, considering the opinions he wrote. He said they're not ranked, but they are the top 10. There's a whole lot of things that they could have put in there, but those are the 10 that they decided to put in. And 5 of those 10 protect us from the government directly.
Right.
Two, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. 4th, searches and seizures. 5th, right to remain silent, jury trial, and right to counsel. I mean, those are designed to protect us from the government.
It's almost like they knew about 2021.
Yeah, right.
They're designed there to protect us from the government. And I think both sides, unfortunately, pick out a couple, and then the rest, you know, they're okay. We don't really worry about those. And I think what we need to do as a country is come together and realize these 5 are here to protect us from the government. And I think that's a reason, that's a common purpose we all have.
You know, Rich, I was watching a documentary a couple of weeks ago. It was a crime documentary from England. And you're watching the way their government does things and the people's rights over there. And I'm taking a look at some of the differences between over here and over there. Frankly, I think it would be fun for us to do some kind of a watch party live and sort of dissect what's going on over there. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, George Washington and his boys saw this system and said, "Oh, hell no, we're not doing this anymore." No, we ain't doing it.
That's some better ideas.
Leave us alone. And that still exists in other parts of the world. It's totally foreign to people over there. And we forget how great of a country that we live in because of these principles. And people who are law-abiding gun owners, they're like-minded people, don't realize why those freedoms are there, and they don't exercise those freedoms to the degree that they really need to and should. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So, Rich, before we bring in Simon, I want to go back a little bit. We talked about how you began your criminal defense career, and you've done all kinds of cases. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but think about all the trials that you've done. Name some of the types of criminal trials that you've had over the years. You don't have to go into any details, but just like the types of offenses that you've dealt with.
Well, I've done with something as simple as a summary trial, somebody running a stop sign. I've done a full-fledged trial on that. DUIs. I've done plenty of self-defense homicide cases, which are difficult. So it runs again. I've done, unfortunately, some child cases where there's child victims, which are always probably the toughest. Sexual assault cases too. So I've run the gamut from your speeding ticket to homicide and attempted homicide cases, and each one of them presents a unique opportunity. I do think the toughest by far, from a trial attorney perspective, is cross-examining a victim, because you have to do it in such a way where you attack their credibility without looking like a bully, because you can never want the jury to hate you. You're just picking on this person who was allegedly assaulted by your client, and now you're just, going after him or her, attacking it. It's a skill that you learn through trial and error, and certainly watching attorneys who've been along, because I find that to be the toughest. It's easy to cross-examine an officer or certain other witnesses, but the victim, it's one of those, it's just a tough scenario, because if you look like a bully in front of that jury, it doesn't matter how good your case is. If they don't like you, you're not going to win that case.
Yeah, maybe I'll let you take that one instead of myself, right? I tend to get a little aggressive on cross-examination. Is that fair to say?
A little, yeah. The first time I saw you cross-examine a witness, it was a judge, and it was the first case that we ever did.
Is there video of this?
We're all
sitting judge.
Oh, I wish. It's a sitting judge in Center County, Pennsylvania. He had sued our firm as an attorney in our firm, requested some cell phone records from him through Pennsylvania's right to know law, and he received those records. He sued to get the records back. Mike and I, considering I always find us to be very constitutional type lawyers, even though we focus on criminal defense. First case was a First Amendment defense, that we got the material legally, and the First Amendment all the way back to the Pentagon's Papers case allows us to use that material because we did nothing illegal to get it. We could use it as we saw fit. And Mike got the honor. Unfortunately, I think I lost that coin toss. I'm still upset about that to this day. Got to
you got to do the closing statement and get all that glory. I don't want to do.
No, he stands up right next to me, and if you don't know anything about Mike, he's not a short guy. So he stands up next to me. I'm sitting in the chair. He leans in and just goes after this judge, and I'm like, he's got to be thinking. Every attorney in this room has been in practice 10, 15, 20 years. Largest firm in Harrisburg's representing the judge. And they're like, these young whippersnappers don't even know to sit down and show some respect. It was great, though, because it was, I envy.
This is why you want Mike as your attorney? Or Rich? Yeah.
No, he was arrested. But you have to understand the witness, right? Because he knew he had to get at him. He went at him. It was effective. We won that case in an opinion by the that they brought in. It was quite effective. He's a public figure, and you got to show actual malice. There's nothing there. And we were 4 or 5 months out of law school. And our boss says, hey, you're defending us. And I went, who's on the other side? And you look up these attorneys, and they're like, yeah, I'm a partner at North.
25 years.
5 years, I'm going, oh, man, we're in trouble.
Yeah, I was in T-ball when they started practicing law. It was great. It was great. That's really the first time we went to war together. And we could tell stories about this for hours. I want to bring Simon on here in a few minutes, but I remember we had interacted before that. Obviously, we're at the same firm. We always got along. But when this came in, we found out that we were on it. I knew that Bartnicki case. I remember having studied that case. And I said, I got this. I went into you. I think you might have even been in TC's office at the time. Guys, there's a case. I remember there's a case where the thing that was a matter of public concern, it was tapes, was straight stolen and given to a third party. This wasn't even stolen. We gotta analogize this. This has got to be the where we go with it. And of course, then ACLU finds that our argument, and we're like, oh yeah, that was our idea in the first place, right?
That was our
Of
idea in the
course.
first spot.
Of course, that's the way to go, right? Now, with 2 minutes before we bring in Simon, Russ is going to get him here in just a minute so we can talk about his deal, and we can sort of tie that into the Center County case because he was involved with that as well. How did you ultimately decide, okay, I'm going to put this heavy focus on the laws of firearms because you're doing all these hardcore criminal defense things and you're still, very much in deep with criminal defense work today. But where did you decide, okay, I'm going to be a gun lawyer because you're one of the few people that I interact with on this professional level, and we're always on the same page. We throw things back and forth where, it doesn't take me 2 hours to explain things to you from the beginning,
I think what it comes down to is this. I always, as a lawyer, find myself to be a defender of the Constitution, right? I don't really take sides in certain issues, constitutional issues. I read it and I defend it. I think it started my beginning of the career. The First Amendment was the defense in that case. And I find that, especially when it comes to the Second Amendment, I think the public at large, a large segment of the public, treats it differently. Now, if an officer kicks in your front door without a warrant, comes in, and I show up and defend the Fourth Amendment and that homeowner's Fourth Amendment rights, nobody has any issues. That's a good job. Officer shouldn't have done that. You go get a warrant. But when I saw individuals who wanted to exercise their Second Amendment rights and buy a popular firearm, an AR-15, a handgun, whatever the case, shotgun, whatever the case may be, apparently that wasn't viewed the same way. And I get a lot of arguments. What do you need that for? Or why do you need this? Or what do you need that? And I go, well, the Second Amendment exists, and it says that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. And they're like, well, it's not absolute. And I'm like, I don't think that individuals would take the same view if I said, if Congress would pass a law, you know what? An officer if you pass a police station more than 4 times after 2 o'clock in the morning, officer can come into your house, see what's going on, because that's odd. Right. Nobody would accept that law ever. But as soon as you start infringing on the Second Amendment, I found it to be treated a bit more second class. And I felt that the effort and energy that I put into defending the First, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Seventh need to be put in a second. Because frankly, there's not much defense and there's a lot of bashing that goes on. So I put a focus on it. I make sure to defend that amendment as vigorously as I defend the others. And, Mike has been my right-hand man, or I've been his right-hand man. We've been right next to each other on this since the beginning of our career. And I've loved every minute of it. And I'd like to be the champion of the people. I'm here to make sure that the rights that were guaranteed to us are protected from any intrusion that comes from the government.
That's a great way to put it. And it really goes back to what we were talking about, the naivety of people in the law-abiding gun-owning community not realizing how they need to exercise those Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights. But when you put it in that context of the people who are anti-Second Amendment, say, what do you need that for? It's almost like saying with regards to the Fourth Amendment, well, if you've got nothing to hide, then we should be able to take a look around, right? Why do you need that privacy? You got anything illegal in there? As Scott Henninger always said in his speeches, remember what he would say? Do you have anything in the car? Any illegal drugs, guns, dead hookers in the trunk? Remember he'd always say that to people?
You're not doing anything
Same
wrong,
thing.
right?
If you got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
If you got nothing to hide, why don't you just tell me what happened? Exactly.
Exactly.
So nobody crushes any of us for defending those rights, but for whatever reason, they look at the Second Amendment right and they don't want to treat it the same way. When, as I would say, it's ranked a little higher. It's number 2 on the list.
His name is Richard S. Roberts, Jr., attorney out of the Lehigh Valley. I should say brother at arms with Mike G., your own. And we do a lot of these gun cases together. He is a program attorney for U.S. Law Shield of Pennsylvania. Hope you get to check him out at one of the seminars. Rich, I do want you to stick around because this next segment will be pertinent to our experience over in Center County to a degree. Russ, I understand we've got Simon Campbell. I keep wanting to say
What?
Simon Cowell, but that's not correct, right? We don't have the guy
He's on-
from American
he's
Idol
on next
coming
week.
the
He's on
program.
next
He's
week.
on next week. All right. We've got Simon Campbell, who's going to be joining the program. Russ, are you working on that?
You want me to get him now?
Yeah, well, get him now. Rich, if you don't mind hanging out with us, we'd love to have you for this next segment.
I'm here for you, Mike. I'm here for you.
Okay, for those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. I want to remind our listeners, if you're listening in the car, if you're one of our 100,000 listeners over the airwaves on Friday morning, there's more of the action to be seen and heard. Our program over the air lasts approximately 1 hour. We will be keeping this thing going many weeks, 2 to 3 hours, and you can check out the full episodes online. Visit MikeGinthemorning.com. You can catch all of our episodes at the Rumble link. For the time being, you can catch them at the YouTube link until they kick us down again. If you're listening live, you can check it out at the Twitch link. But check out our previous episodes, Rumble, right on the MikeGinthemorning.com website. And you can listen to the extended version of our episodes every week for those of us who are listening on Friday morning over the air, whether you're in your vehicle, you've got us on your shower radio. Simon, this is Mike G from Mike G in the Morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
You know, Simon, I want to bring things back here. Obviously, you've been in the news quite a bit lately, and we appreciate what you're doing out there. I'm going to take a quick stroll down memory lane. I don't know if you recall this, but myself and my colleague, attorney Richard Roberts, who's also on the program with us today, represented the McShane firm in a lawsuit brought by a Judge Grine out of Center County many years ago. We raised the First Amendment argument and got the lawsuit dismissed as to our client. And I believe that you were an intervener in that matter. Is that correct?
I was very heavily involved in all of that Center County nonsense. Yes. My goodness, it's funny how life comes full circle. I remember you guys.
Absolutely. It's good to reconnect. And we appreciate that you've been fighting for freedom for a very long time, haven't you?
Well, I'm just not a big fan of government thugs. So whether they're in Center County, Bucks County, I tend to find them very annoying creatures. So I tend to have a bad hobby of wanting to deal with them using the Constitution.
Now, where does that come from? Where does that stem from? Has it always been that way?
Kind of. I mean, I'm born and raised in the UK, but, you know, I'm naturalized as a U.S. citizen. And when I was at the ceremony in 2009, there was about 60 of us being naturalized in Philadelphia. And over 30 different countries, and many folks that day had tears in their eyes. You know, they'd finally made it. They were in America, the land of the free. And I think it was a very moving experience. And I often think that not everyone that's born here understands necessarily what it really means to be American. And I think that immigrants that have come from piss-poor countries, tyrants, and then they go through the legal process, they get it. And that kind of day, that naturalization ceremony always sort of stood with me. You know, there's a reason in this country we're free. We have the right to insult government officials and annoy them. We don't go to jail, you know?
Great stuff.
They're extending that these days, apparently, though, that you have a right to not be offended, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's why what kicked me off in this whole video was like that we have a school board policy that says you have to be nice when you're speaking to the government. And I'm just like, you have to be nice. So just when the school solicitor was yelling and screaming at me, I'm like, first of all, you're not being very nice. Second of all, as a matter of constitutional law, I sure as hell don't have to be nice.
Well, Russ, why don't we pull that? Russ, the producer, is going to pull up that clip so our audience can see it if they haven't already. It seems that just about everybody has seen this thing. It really went viral, didn't it, Simon?
Oh, my Lord. I don't really have much of a social media presence, so it got up to like a few thousand on YouTube. And I thought, oh, my God, that's my biggest video ever. And then I guess it was being distributed on other platforms. And like 2 days later, my daughter, she goes, Dad, you're at 1.2 million on TikTok. And I'm like, what's, and I'm like, what's TikTok?
What's TikTok? I love it. Oh, that is great.
That's great.
Russ, you got that pulled up?
Yeah, so I have it labeled here as Simon Campbell gives school board a verbal thrashing.
Wonderful.
I think that's an accurate description.
Yeah, pretty accurate
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Let's get it
All right.
going.
All
Ready,
right,
grab
let's
your
play
popcorn.
this.
Here we go.
Simon Campbell.
Simon Campbell, 1571 Brookfield Road, Lower Makefield Township. I'm a Pensbury School District resident, Pensbury School District taxpayer. I'm also a former member of the Governing Board of Directors, 2009 to 2013. It's nice to see the old faces. I'm here to speak today. I believe, Gary, you said it was item KKK in the agenda book. Well, isn't that just a perfect summation of what it is I'm here to talk about? KKK, your proposed new school board policy, seeking once again to limit the constitutionally protected speech of American citizens. Now, when I sat on this school board, I believe some of you old-timers might remember this. A union guy spoke at public comment for 5 minutes and ripped me a new one. He called me the bastard child of Margaret Thatcher. And I sat there and I said to myself, okay, fair enough. Welcome to America. He considers me a bastard because I'm in the government. His logic is sound. Now, what happened was the superintendent and the school solicitor at the time freaked out and they didn't put the tape online the next day. And I called them up and I said, get the tape online now before we get sued for censorship. I yelled at the solicitor and I asked him what law school he went to, because it was clearly constitutionally protected rhetorical hyperbole. I can cite the case if you'd like. And I said to Paul Long, the superintendent at the time, don't ever cut the tape again, Paul. And by the way, bastard child of Margaret Thatcher, I took it as a compliment. Now, you snowflakes apparently have a bigger problem with public comment. It seems to me that you think you can supersede the United States Constitution. Well, I've got news for you, School Board President Benito Mussolini. Your power does not supersede that of the U.S. Constitution and the First Amendment rights of the citizens of this great nation. Let's be very, very clear who has the power.
Mr.
It is
Campbell,
not government policy. Do not warn me or do not interrupt my time.
That if you
interrupt my
make
time,
personal
do
insults
not
like that
interrupt
again,
my
or
time.
if you personally direct your comments, you will
Let
be
me
asked
be very
to
clear.
step away from the podium.
I'm going to
I am
quote
asking
to you,
again, make
solicitor.
your comments,
I'm
but do
quoting,
not
just
do
a minute, do
name
not
calling
talk
like
over
you
me.
just did.
This is my comment, not your comment. I'm quoting to you now from the United States Supreme Court 1964 case, New York Times versus Sullivan. This is constitutional case law in this country, and I'm quoting you from the U.S. Supreme Court. The judges wrote that this nation is founded on the, quote, profound national commitment to the principle that debate on public issues shall be uninhibited, robust, and wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. That's constitutional case law in this nation. I don't have to be nice to you. Nobody behind me has to be nice to you. If you don't like living in the United States of America, then you can all move to Russia, Cuba, or China. This is the First Amendment. And I will caution you, solicitor. There is a video camera to my left. If you edit this tape, then you're going to have a big legal problem on your hands, because my right to critique your fascism, which is what this is constitutionally protected. There are emails, public record emails, in which the Director of Equity is lobbying and advocating for public comment to be censored in this school district. And you know what? Lobbying for it, advocating for it. We've got the school board president saying she'll do better at hitting the mute button in blatant violation of the Constitution. For her lobbying and her advocacy of unconstitutional censorship, I want you, the school board, to terminate the employment of Dr. Charissa Gibson with immediate effect. And after you've terminated her employment, I want all of you to tender your resignations for hating on this country. We have a God-given constitutional right to critique you, and we can speak in any lawful tone that we see fit. And don't go looking around, Benito, because this is the United States of America. You have a good. One more thing. I want to make a verbal request right now for an unedited copy of the tape. So if any of you delete it, you're going to have a big legal problem. Good night.
Oh man, that is a masterpiece.
That was
Oh
fantastic.
my!
It was
Oh, my
amazing.
Lord.
What was going through your head?
it's
How did you
fantastic.
feel when you got off there and you didn't drop the mic because it was on a stand, but how did that feel when everybody was getting behind you and supporting you? Because especially these days, everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people are very sort of hesitant to get behind somebody who's speaking out for the truth. How did that feel when they all got behind you and you left that stage?
I think when it was going on, I was so pissed off with the government. I wasn't actually able to hear anything except what the fascist was saying in front of me, and the fascist went to law school. You know, I'm listening to it now, and it kind of like makes me laugh. Like, oh, I probably could have used a cup of tea that night. You know.
I'd like to have a cup of tea with you sometime.
Yeah, I'm normally not like that, you know, but I'll tell you the backstory to what happened was I met this lady in the entranceway of the school board meeting about 10 minutes before I went on. And, you know, I'm a bit of a loudmouth, me, if you know me from Centre County, right? But this lady I was talking to, just a regular mom, right? A school district mom wanted to come speak on this policy issue, critical race theory, which is all over the news. And she'd come to an earlier meeting the prior month. And based on the thug behavior of the school solicitor, because that's the guy who was trying to shut me up, she said she felt too intimidated after seeing his behavior at that meeting to speak. And I'm talking to her in the hallway, and I'm like, you know what? It's one thing for the government to try to thug up a guy like me because they're going to get it right back at them, right? But I was talking to this lady, and I'm like, it was just really bothering me that here we had an ordinary everyday mom just wanting to talk to the government about her thoughts and feelings about the curriculum. And the darn radical left, because that's what they are, had hired this thug solicitor to shout people down, switch the microphone off, cut their comments from the tape, and she didn't want to speak. And I'm like, this is not okay. Not in my school district, not in my hometown. I don't care what the policy issue is. I went even beyond that, you know. I don't care what politics are here. We do not have 1930s Germany. We don't burn books. We don't censor people. We don't shut them up. And if you guys want to play that game, here I come. So that was kind of like what got me riled up before I went in there. And I kind of knew the tactics, the thug tactics they would use, which is why, you know, I had New York Times versus Sullivan loaded up on my phone. You know?
That was good. That was good.
And that's really what the Centre County case came down to, too. It was a First Amendment issue. They wanted those records to be destroyed and never disclosed to anybody. And obviously, we represented our client and were able to strike it down. But you saw it all the way from where you are and said, no, I'm not going to sit here and stand for that either. I'm going to get involved. So you've really, I don't think people who see this video realize the amount of time and effort you've really put into defending the First Amendment and defending our constitutional freedoms for many years at this point, because that's going back quite a while.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? I don't like, you know, in Centre County, there was an ordinary everyday sort of paralegal that got picked on and thugged up. And I just don't, and it's a bit like this mom in the hallway outside my school board. I just don't like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I expect people with money and power and political parties to do all that, but I just can't stand it when I see everyday citizens getting picked on by government thugs. And that's sort of like, I just almost can't help it. You know what I mean? Because I have a bit of a loudmouth, and I just like jump in there for the sheer sake of it and like, come pick a fight with me. I think in that case, I was about the only person in Centre County the district attorney didn't sue. And I think, and I was the one person where I think she was like, he's even crazier than we are.
Yeah, right. You were almost raising your hand asking her to sue you, right?
Please, you're a criminal, you're this, you're that. Oh, I did those political mailers against her. That was fun. Oh my goodness.
Definitely. So you're at it again, and this time you're getting some wide recognition all over the country, or all over the world, really. What can people do to support you and make sure that you're able to continue to fight for freedom?
Well, I guess just follow me on. I signed up for Twitter today because I have a Twitter account, so I'm at Limey Simon. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, my handle is Limey Simon. So if you follow me there, I guess I'll start doing some tweets and follow me on YouTube. Because, you know, America's America. You know, everyone's got to speak. Public policy is one thing, whatever side you're on. We can't have government thugs shutting people up, and it just can't stand, can it?
I love how you gave it back to him too, because you're up there talking about how censorship is no good, and he's trying to censor you as you're doing it, right? They're like, oh no, don't call anybody any names. We're gonna rip you off of there if you have one little slight misstep with exactly how you say things. And you basically told him, "Shut up, nerd, knock it off."
Yeah. Well, I basically doubled down and called the school board president. Her name is Christine. She's a lady, and I'm going to call her Benito Mussolini at every meeting just on principle. But just as a backdrop to yesterday, the school district, under all this nationwide scrutiny, right? This will make you laugh, because they've been cutting the tape of prior meetings, right? So the March meeting and the May meeting, the public comment, people that whose speech they didn't like, they cut them from the tape and then post the edited version on the website. So last night they decided they better not do that with me, because with all this, nationwide furor around it. So they put it unedited, but they put a disclaimer at the front. It's the funniest legal disclaimer I've ever seen, because it's so stupid. It says portions of this. This is the unedited version of the school board meeting. Portions of this reflect a violation of Pennsbury School Board Policy 903 pertaining to public comment. The speakers have violated the government's policy, but we're posting it unedited anyway. Now think about that from a legal point of view. How almost, I don't know whether to cry or laugh, that they've gone public in the face of all of this outrage and literally told the world, coming to Pennsbury, exercising your constitutional rights is a violation of government policy.
Right.
So crazy.
But what they're telling you by putting it out anyhow and just letting them know that there's a violation, it's like, yeah, it's a violation, but there's nothing we can really do about it.
They're really talking about themselves,
Well, exactly. I knew going in there, it's constitutionally unenforceable that you have to be nice to the school board president. Of course, it's a lot of nonsense. But the point is, I know that. But how many ordinary everyday folks know that? I mean, if you've got a school solicitor shouting at you and saying you're violating our policy, a guy like me can say, I don't give a flying monkey's backside what your policy is. But, not many folks necessarily are familiar with constitutional law. And I always encourage activists, people that want to get involved. I said, look, you don't have to go to law school. A lot of stuff I just get it from Google Scholar. You just look it up, put a few quotes in your phone, and you start quoting constitutional law to them. I mean, if you listen to the tape, that school solicitor shut up real quick when I quoted the law to him, because he's a licensed professional. He doesn't want to get found guilty of malpractice. So he thought he could thug me up with a policy. When he got smacked down with the Constitution, he went awfully quiet.
Absolutely. And really, that's what it comes down to when you're talking about those First Amendment protections. And I'm going to bring in Rich on this one, because when we were doing that Center County case, a lot of the case law we went through and we cited in our brief had to do with prior restraints, and how prior restraints are really the worst thing possible and cause a chilling effect on speech, and people are afraid to speak their mind. As a result, you don't have that robust debate, and it's really, the First Amendment is meant to protect unpopular speech. Everybody agrees with speech, nobody's gonna have a problem with it, then it doesn't need protection, right? Popular speech doesn't need protection. It's unpopular speech that some people might not like and may possibly, God forbid, offend them, that needs to be protected. Rich, we did a lot with those prior restraints on that. Do you have anything that you want to tie in or ask to Simon?
Yeah, Simon, first of all, that video was spectacular, and I appreciate you doing that, because I think more people need to do that. And I think the way you present it, I don't really care what the policy is, but people get to criticize you. You're the government. That's literally what the First Amendment's about. And then having a policy of not being nice with speech, that's really a prior restraint. And I think that goes to what Mike and I argued in that Center County case, is that they wanted a preliminary injunction against our firm to be able to use the material that we legally got from them from publicizing it. And the argument was you can't do that. The First Amendment protects it. And if it doesn't make you look good, well, oh well. I mean, that's the bottom line. The First Amendment exists for us to criticize the government, whether in that case it was a judge or in this case it's the school board. That's what we're here for. I applaud you.
Now, Simon, I do want to ask you this, because it seems like years ago, this was the type of principle that it seemed that everybody was on board with the idea of free speech. You know, you had the liberals and the hippies who were all about the First Amendment and freedom of speech and everything. And now it seems that more and more people are getting on board with suppressing speech that they don't like, right? They're not for freedom of speech. If it's quote unquote hate speech, they'll throw all kinds of labels on it just to suppress speech that they don't agree with. What's going on here? How do we get out of this, Simon? Am I crazy or am I seeing this right?
No. I can't stand political correctness. First of all, the cultural background from the UK. A lot of the humor in the UK is very politically incorrect. So when I moved here, I don't get all this political correctness. I think what's going on to a certain extent, I mean, I get labeled most often, typically, because, you get stereotype labeled as the vast right-wing conservative guy. I'm actually a flaming libertarian, which means I'm like way to the left of the left, way to the right of the right, in my own bizarre space, like my favorite album of all time is Nevermind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols. And I look at a lot of stuff in government here and I'm just going, bollocks. So, but yeah, you can't, in this particular situation, we've got an emails, going back to the Centre County case, it all ties together, doesn't it? It's funny how the First Amendment and transparency in government are often two sides of the same coin.
That's right.
Back in that Centre County case, you got all those dodgy texting and phone calls. Here, in my school district, we've got emails where the director of what's her title? Equity and diversity, something or other, some bollocks job title. She was I don't know what these titles mean. My political views are coming out now, bollocks. But she was the one who was slamming a prior speaker from the March meeting. A guy shows up, right? Softly spoken, not like me, just talking about, I don't like critical race theory for this, that, and the other reason. And she then goes to the school board president and the superintendent on email and says, that guy's a racist. We need to shut him down. We need to have a mechanism in place for people like him come back and speak again, where there's an immediate silencing function, and I want a public statement put out by the school district saying that he's a racist dog whistler, right? And the school board president puts out a statement that she ghostwrote, this director of equity, against this poor guy. He's just an everyday guy that was having a policy opinion. Now all of a sudden the government's putting out a public statement essentially accusing him of being a racist dog whistler, and talking about all the things that they will do, the government under their policy, to stop it. And that's where it gets really sinister for me. That's where it goes from, it doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative. It doesn't matter what his views were when he showed up to speak. We can't have a society in which the government is actively intimidating people. See, whether or not those emails in Centre County were public was largely sort of a legal dispute. Here, you've got intimidation tactics, thug tactics. You've got the elected officials using the lawyer, who, by the way, is supposed to counsel the school board, not run the meeting, not, enforce dopey policies. He's supposed to counsel it, and he's the one that the elected officials are using, taxpayer-funded lawyer, as their, I don't know what you call him, like thug guy to intimidate people. And that's what really, really upset me. Yeah. So in this case, it's the radical left, as I call them, that are the fascists. But for me, I'm an equal opportunity offender. If it was the other side, my comment would be exactly the same no matter what the policy debate was.
That's good.
Absolutely. The cure to bad speech is always more speech, never cutting off the opinion that you don't like. Simon, we really appreciate the time that you've given to us.
Hold on there,
evening.
Mike. Hold on. We have somebody in the YouTube chat does have a question for Simon. He says, this is Scott Frey. He says, has Simon gotten his unedited copy of the tape?
The one from Thursday, yes, but yes, because they were too scared to edit it. But apparently the board meeting in May, where apparently they haven't released it yet. We're trying to get it under the right to know law. It's even worse what they were doing. Apparently, the school solicitor was like yelling at people at public comments, saying you're not allowed to say the words critical race theory, and going off on them.
Really?
Wow.
So there's actually more to come on this story with Pensbury.
Okay.
So
we've got to have you back on the program then,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah, of course.
That would
Of
be
course,
great.
and
That
make
would
some
be
tea.
fantastic. Yeah, that's right. We should have a tea party. We should have
Love
a
it.
tea
I love
party
it.
live
What kind
on
of
the
tea do
air.
you like?
We
What
will
kind of
get
tea do you
together
drink?
at the studio. What do you think, Simon?
Oh, absolutely. Thai food tea. Just don't give me any of that Lipton. That's junk tea. That is.
Yeah. Right?
Some Earl
We
Grey.
really want to
Maybe some Earl
insult
Grey.
you with that stuff.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'll take
Simon,
Earl Grey.
thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, check out his YouTube channel. Check out his new social media. Thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate you standing up for our First Amendment for all these years, Simon.
You're welcome, guys. Anytime.
Take care. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Attorney Richard Roberts, I'm going to let you go here. I'm going to cut you loose. Do you have any parting words for our audience? Any comments, any questions, anything of that nature?
No, keep fighting a good fight. I think we need everyday citizens like Simon to keep fighting the good fight. Speak up, even when they tell you to shut up. Speak up, even when they tell you can't do something. Do it. Don't be scared to exercise your rights. I think that's vitally important to the health of our country. Whether you agree with the particular.
So you're saying when they tell you can't say voter fraud, or they'll kick you off of YouTube to do an episode where you say it 9 million times? Is that what you're saying, Rich?
Well, depends how many viewers you have on YouTube. I agree with Simon wholeheartedly. I think censorship is completely out of control, and I wasn't going to cut him off because he's brilliant with his speech. But the fact that a solicitor, a fellow attorney, Mike G, is defending that policy, I think infuriates me more than the school board, because I expect individuals on the school board who do a part-time gig maybe not to know it, but that guy was trained the same way we were and is like, no, you're allowed. You advise these people, you're allowed to have this policy. You are not. You can tell people they're not allowed to criticize you. What law school did you graduate from? I am curious. Like,
yeah, that was
wait,
great.
What? But yeah, when it comes down to it, more people like that, more people like you guys on this show, defending those people's rights, representing citizens, it's what we need.
It's the Brooklyn Academy of Law for my cousin Vinny. That's right.
Hey, he
Yeah,
won the
saying
case at
something
the end of the day.
offensive.
I'm just pointing it out.
That's right. He who won the case. Jerry Gallo's dead. I'm Jerry Callow with the C.
That was me.
You know,
the
it's
judge
funny.
in that case is
Herman Munster. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
First time I heard that, I looked at it and went, oh, that is Herman Munster. Look at that.
I got to tell you, we were in court the other day, Rich, and it was a case that was very far, a couple hours away in Columbia County. And when I met my driver, I was not dressed for court. I was dressed in regular clothes, and I had the suit hanging up in the back to get changed when we were there. And we start pulling up. I guess I didn't realize how quickly we were getting there, how close we were. And I'm still wearing my regular street clothes. And the driver says, you should walk in there like that. And out here in Columbia County, it'll be like my cousin Vinny. The judge will say, what are you wearing? Next time you come into my courtroom, you better be wearing a suit, and it better be made out of some kind of cloth.
That is
Rich,
definitely Columbia County.
it's fun getting to do this with you on the air. I always enjoy our conversations behind closed doors. We certainly talk enough with how many cases we deal with together. So we want to welcome you to join us back on the program sometime, get further into this. I know we only scratched the surface today.
No, absolutely. Anytime you guys want to have me back, I appreciate the invitation. I've had a lot of fun. It was great to hear from Simon again. I said it was a long time ago. I'm like, it's not that long until I think about it. And then I don't want to, get how old I feel at this point.
We're getting old. We're getting old,
Yeah,
my
no.
friend.
Well, Biden was in the Senate for 120 years, so he's pretty old.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so if I can do whatever he's doing, we're going to be practicing law for a long time.
There we go. Exactly. There we go. We need you around.
I don't know if you want to do what
may
he's
not be able
doing.
to remember my name by the time I get there. What county am I in again? But be practicing law.
There we go. Love it.
That is great. Rich, we'll see you on the program again soon. Ladies and gentlemen, that's once again Richard Roberts, firearms lawyer here in Pennsylvania, program attorney for U.S. Law Shield. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mike.
So, Russ, I know that for the rest of the program, we're going to have some of our regular guests join us, and it's going to be sort of like the old days where we had those callers call on in. and we had an announcement on our social media that if you did not participate in today's program, then you will be awarded the Mustard Award. Now, we did get an unable to attend from Mr. Joe Smalley, so he is hereby officially issued the Mustard Award. We'll have to do some kind of a video where we send that on out to him. Who do we have in the queue? Which one of our listeners will be joining us first, Russ?
It's in the doc. Somebody called Amber.
Oh, we have to have. Chris, do you have correct pronunciation on that one?
I don't. I think it's Amrpreet. I think.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to ask. I don't like.
Yeah.
You know, I get Chiramita butchered enough times.
Right.
I got to name my radio program Mike G in the morning, right?
Right. Exactly.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL.
Ooh.
Hello, this is Mike G from Mike G in the morning.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being a very loyal listener of the program and always being active on social media. And this has been a long time coming.
Thank you.
Now, I got to ask you this. How can we pronounce your name? Because I don't want to get it wrong. People get Jiramita wrong all the time. That's why the name of my program's got to be Mike G in the morning. I can't even get Philly Chris or Russ to say my name right.
What?
I know how to spell
You know, I go by Amani. That's fine.
Mani, all right. That works for us too. Now, we understand that you are a nurse fighting out there on the front lines protecting people.
Yes, I am. I'm an RN.
That is great. How long have you been doing that?
Well, I've been in healthcare since 2006. It was my first job, but I went to school in 2012. So I've been a nurse since 2012. But I was like, in healthcare as a CNA before that.
Well, that's great. Now, how did things go with the pandemic and everything like that? I understand that was a very, very difficult time for nurses, and we appreciate all the medical professionals who continued to go out there and go to work to help us. What was that like?
Thank you. It was we had Coast Guard actually helping us there for a month in between. We had a rough, couple of months, and where we had the most amount of deaths at our place, and it was very traumatic.
How did it feel going in there, having to take care of people and really putting your own personal safety aside, because you're over there treating people? There's this new disease. Nobody knows what it is, how deadly it is, who it's going to affect, how it's going to affect them. What was that like going in there to work every day under those conditions?
Well, it was not only for us to wear our PPE and gear and go in there. Some of us nurses have like diabetes or other conditions along with it, so we step into the zone knowing that we have to be very careful, taking care of our own health as well at the same time, and the patient, plus giving updates to, the phone was just ringing nonstop. We would have family members wanting updates constantly, and which we understand, but if we're answering on the phone, how are we going to take care of that many people that are actually in distress right at the same time? So it was very challenging.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And being concerned for your own safety, was it something that was nerve-wracking, or is it something that when you're focused on a mission and this is what you do, that you sort of don't even think about it, you just sort of go into battle?
I think so. My first time that I stepped in the we called it the red zone, and we were called the SWAT team. That's what the name they gave us. So we logged in under SWAT, and we put our PPE, and just walking through room to room to room, and just seeing people just struggling for air, struggling for different needs. It was very shaking, and I was very nervous. I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And at the same time, eventually, at the same time taking care, we kind of start to learn how to maneuver around with taking care of them and ourselves. So we managed, but as the day went by, we got better with handling everything. So that's how that went. It was kind of like figuring out every day
Well,
the challenges that we face.
we appreciate, you putting
Thank
your own
you.
needs aside is absolutely admirable, and appreciate folks like you who had that bravery to go out there and get the job done. Now, I understand you're also a supporter of our
Mhm.
Second Amendment. Is that so?
Yes, yes. I own two guns, and I was well, actually, my grandfather was the one that used to have a gun, and my grandparents and my parents' origin is from India,
Mhm.
and so he used to carry a pistol all the time. And after that, like my dad wasn't into it, but I happened to be into this and found out that I love to go indoor shooting, and I'm decently okay at it. I try to practice here and there, but it was I actually bought myself a Glock 17 first, and
Ah.
then
Very
I
nice.
went and bought a 43X. Yeah, uh,
Oh,
Awesome.
okay.
Very, very
Uh,
nice. Yeah.
Philly Chris a
more
Glock guy. So
easy to.
you and Philly Chris would be friends. Are you over in the
Absolutely.
Dauphin County area, from what I understand?
Yes, yes,
Good deal.
Harrisburg. Uh
Okay,
huh.
you go visit our friends over at 717 Armory.
I do. That's actually where I met you.
Oh, good deal. Good
There we
deal.
go. See?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I went to the U.S. Shield and signed up and everything, and I remember you came from a important case or something. Something happened there, and you were just arriving,
Oh,
by
right.
taking care of.
That might have been the time where I had to sleep up in Snyder County, Pennsylvania, because there was a
Yes,
shooting the previous night. Is that what you're talking about?
yes. That's what
Oh
I'm talking
wow.
about. Yes,
Wow. Yeah.
yes.
Well, you got to forgive me that we hadn't kept in touch, because I was on about 30 minutes of sleep that day.
Yeah.
I don't really even remember giving that seminar. I just remember that I was there.
Well, that's a lot more sleep than you usually get, Mike, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Uh,
then I signed up, and just hearing out everybody and how important it was to
Yeah.
have you on speed dial, or
mhm.
anybody who will help me, I guess, if the need be. So I've been feeling very mentally like I'm so much secure, and I remember when you signed my book and you said, lawyer up, shut up, I always been I have always been practicing that. I'm like, okay,
That's great.
Amani, remember this.
Mm.
Anything that happens, just shut up. Don't
That's
say a
right.
word. You're not gonna say nothing out of your
Mhm.
mouth, because I'm known to start talking, and then very friendly, and I talk a lot. So I was
Do you
like,
remember what
I need to zip
vegetable
it.
Mike mentioned at the seminar? Did he mention a vegetable at some point?
Mm,
Uh,
I mean, it was very early morning. I'm a late person. I could be sleeping too.
Maybe
The
I
old
didn't even
zucchini
mention it
joke.
that time. I do mention the zucchini at some point.
Zucchini, yeah.
That's the key word, right? Actually, anybody who shows up to a U.S. Law Shield seminar and mentions zucchini at
Hmm.
the front door, you will be allowed in for free. Okay,
There we go. There we go.
the new secret over here. So, Monty, I appreciate that you attended the seminar, and in
Hmm.
attending, you learned the importance of lawyer up and shut up, because not
Hmm.
everybody does. Not everybody realizes that, and sometimes people learn that the hard way, because
Yes.
they think that as long as they didn't think they were doing anything wrong, or they didn't mean to do anything wrong, they could just go ahead
Hmm.
and they could talk to the police, and they end up getting themselves in a whole lot of trouble. So it's great that you're
Yes,
burning that
because
into your brain.
right, because I mean, any single word, just like us in medical field, everything is dissected. The word, the sentence is the same thing. I could be saying something totally honestly, and that could be dissected and held against me, and then I'm like, oops, what what did I just say?
Mm,
I didn't
Mhm.
mean that. And then that's
right.
you can't
Oh, you
erase
didn't
that.
mean that, did you? What did you mean? See how that
What
goes, right?
and then attending the seminar, a lot of other things came up, like which I didn't know. It was stuff like the cost. Suppose they need to run some ballistics or something
Right.
to prove me innocent or something. So that cost and other cost all combined could be a lot.
Sure.
And
Oh, yeah.
You know, just paying a monthly fee, having all that off your head and not worrying about anything, it's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
they ought to give you some money, Imani. Let me tell you that much.
Yeah, that was a pretty good
You give them
testimonial
quite
there
the
for U.S.
review
Law.
on the
Ladies and
air.
gentlemen, U.S. Law Shield,
There you go.
gunlawseminar.com.
Well, you know what we
Well,
should do, Chris?
anything to help anybody. As nurses, I tell you, as nurses, we get attacked. So some of us are like visiting in the community, out and about, or home health that visits into somebody's house. And nurses get jumped on because we have nursing bags, and people assume we have some kind of, you know, nice treats in there, and they get jumped at, and you know, there's actually just bandages. That's what we know, but they think that there's some stuff that they can get a hold of. And the story that I'm going to mention quick.
And masks I got here. Look at this
Wow.
stuff.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's
I
logical.
didn't
is
think of that.
They think you're walking around with OxyContin in your bag,
Right.
Yep, they're like they got morphine, hydromorphine, stuff like that. But no, we don't have anything like that. We just have bandages to come see you. But I think the story here, I'm going to mention quickly, what really got me into guns was I went to see a patient out in the middle of here, nowhere, and my tablet didn't have any like signal, or my 2 cell phones did not have any signal. So I was out there without anything, right?
Oh, wow. Sure.
And then here the guy comes from, he had a PICC line, and that's what I went there for. Anyway, he comes and puts the gun on the table on my sterile field that I just was waiting to take care. He puts his handgun, and then he goes, yeah, I got like a X amount of dollar worth of handguns here, and what if he hold like hostage or something? He was laughing. He didn't mean to harm, but I was thinking after I left there quickly, I was like, that is correct. I'm going out in the woods. I have no cell phone reception. How am I going to protect myself?
Right.
Really?
Yeah. Important question.
That scared me a lot. As a nurse, I'm out there to help, but you know, anything could happen to me. I could not make it alive out of there. Nobody would know.
That's horrible.
I mean,
they should have like a special law where if you attack like a nurse or somebody in the medical care industry out like that, that's a bigger violation. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think
I'm
about
sure
that?
that'll stop them, right? Because
well, that's
murder,
true.
you know, you just get a slap on the wrist for murder.
Point.
So
wait a minute, there's a new law. Oh, I think I'll
yeah.
follow it.
with pure intentions to go there, an hour drive into the woods somewhere, pure intentions just to make someone feel better, take care of them.
Yeah.
You know, and then I was scared. That's when I bought the 17. That's when I went and got the 17. I was like, let's get this.
There are sick people out there.
Liberty,
is that you piping in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and these are the scenarios. These are the exact scenarios that the gun control advocates do not think about at the end of the day. Right? She's a female, a nurse, going out there protecting others. Well, who's protecting her?
Yeah, yeah. The gun control advocates will say that everybody, you know, all the gun owners are just guys that look like Philly Chris out there, right? They're a bunch of hateful right-wing extremists like Philly Chris.
Exactly. There it is. Yeah.
You know, scared me. I quickly, I was scared, and I was like, well, you know, my tablet and my cell phones are last tracked to your place because my work know that I've been dispatched to your place. And I was quickly mentioning all that all my gadgets are going to be tracked to this last place. And he was just laughing because I think he wanted me to understand it's important that I take care of myself too out there. You know, that I should take care of all nurses should, or anybody who's going out there. There's social workers. There's many people in the healthcare that go out. So it could be anybody.
Do you ever have security with you? Do you have security with you sometimes? I know some nurses in the city who have actual security details that go with them.
No. Like I said, the home health visits or anything out in the community, we're just really on our own.
Yeah, you're on your own. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for what you do. Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's good that you've
Go
made that
shooting.
choice.
Come
That
shooting
you're
with
going to
us.
do something about it and protect yourself. We definitely want her to come shoot with us. What we're
Yeah,
going
come
to
shoot with
do,
us.
I think what we ought to do, because we talked about
We're going to
taking
teach
Russ
Russ
out
how to
there.
shoot.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we go out to a bunch of different ranges. Like we'll go out to 717. We'll have all a few of the
Yeah.
listeners and special guest Amani come shoot with us, and we'll make a video out of it, and then we'll do something back here on the East. I think that's a good idea. Would you be down for that, Amani? Would you come with us? Would you shoot with us?
Absolutely down to go anywhere to shoot to get my skills sharp.
All right. Consider it done. Well, we appreciate you joining us today. That means that you are no longer eligible for the Mustard Award, so you don't have to worry about that. It's a real load off of your mind, right?
Yeah.
It does. It does. I do not want the Mustard Award, even though an award.
Especially a bowl of mustard.
We'll have to get you something nice. Well, thank you so much for being a loyal listener. We really appreciate folks like you. It's the reason why we do this program, Amani.
Thank you so much. I just feel honored. I mean, I wanted to. I was like, was a little bit like, I've never been on air before. Like, am I gonna be even able to, follow and everything? And then I'm like, you know what? I want to. I started off with the guns and everything. I had no knowledge, but if even a little bit of what I have gained, not my knowledge, will help, I'm definitely out. There. I will participate in whatever.
You did great. See, it wasn't so bad, right? Right? You did a great job.
A little bit maybe, but not that much.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. Come on. I had your
amazing.
No, it was
Yeah.
fun. I loved it.
You're going to be on every week now. You're part of the show.
That's right, yeah. I'm actually about to retire. I'm handing the keys to the kingdom.
Right.
Oh, Amani, we will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
You too.
Stay safe. Thanks for what you do.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Philly Chris, I'm going to leave you in charge for the next couple of minutes. I'm going to pop off for a quick break. We have got a question through YouTube, and this is right up your alley, Philly Chris, because as far as I'm concerned, I hope nobody else is listening to this who might get offended, but as far as I'm concerned, as people who have worked with U.S. Law Shield, you are the greatest pitcher of all time. You explain the program better than anybody I have ever encountered. And we've got a question on the YouTube comments saying, this is from CB. It says, what are the benefits of U.S. Law Shield? I have USCCA, but I might consider going for U.S. Law Shield. And we've got one of our very special listeners, Eric Krebs, says, hello, Mike from Paradise Island, Bahamas. Isn't that a lucky man? Eric, this is Mike G from not the Bahamas. Very jealous. Chris, why don't you, did you get that question from CB? What are the benefits of U.S. Law Shield? I have USCCA, but might consider going for U.S. Law Shield. So go ahead, take it away. I will be back in 2 minutes.
Absolutely. Take your time, and thanks for the handoff there, Michael. And yeah, sure, let's talk about that a little bit. One of the major benefits, of course, with U.S. Law Shield, it's a firearms legal defense program, and it's a true membership organization. Some of the other programs out there, like the one that you mentioned, are more in line with an insurance product type of product. So with U.S. Law Shield, there's no caps, there's no limits. Once you become a member, everything is included. So if you ever have any issues, you can pull out your card that you'll receive as a member that has the 2 phone numbers on the back, the office phone number, and then most importantly, the actual emergency hotline. And you want to program those in your phone properly so you call the right one during a critical incident. And the amazing thing about U.S. Law Shield, unlike USCCA and some of the other programs out there, is that when you call that number, and I've been with Mike when this happened, so I can attest to the fact that this is real. In our area, since Mike is the program attorney for the state of Pennsylvania, generally he's going to answer. For some reason he's not available or happens to have some vacation or something like that. One of the other program attorneys in the state of Pennsylvania will answer. So if you're at that critical incident and you're, being questioned by the police, for example, and your adrenaline's rushing and you're, probably freaking out because any good law-abiding gun owner is not going to want to be in one of these scenarios. You can pull that card out, make the call, and then you can also present the card to any law enforcement to exercise your right, as Mike mentioned earlier, to lawyer up and shut up, which is really the most important thing to do. So, but there's no caps, there's no limits. U.S. Law Shield, through the seminars that Mike does and the other program attorneys do throughout the country, keeps the costs down. They don't spend a ton on the, the flashy marketing. Of course, there are commercials on the website, but you're really getting the best attorneys, that I've ever seen in the firearms industry, and I've been doing this a while, who really care like Mike and are going to take the best care of you. So, great program. Yeah, definitely consider it. For those of you out there, we love U.S. Law Shield, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about it, Mike, for a few minutes. Yeah.
He said you had me once you mentioned Mike G would answer. That's my kind of guy.
There we go. Yeah, I've literally been with Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to be careful about what I say, but Mike and I do spend some time together for show and other reasons, and been in the vehicle with him. And literally, the phones rang, and he's like, "Hey, you got time? Like, we may need to take a diversion." I've actually gone to the calls with him, and I don't know if it's okay to talk about the one, Mike, we went to the city where the police basically were banging on the door and trying to get her to, open the door there.
Yeah, basically,
even though she had already exercised her right to remain silent, they weren't really listening. So
right, exactly. It was absolutely crazy. That one was a shooting case where we had to alternate between hospital and house because
that's right.
A guy exercised his Fifth Amendment rights, and they said, "Well, we're going to go search your house." And wife calls me and says, "They want to search my house. Do I let them do that?" I said, "Absolutely not." I asked them if they've got a warrant. And the officer said, "Well, the warrant's on the way." And I said, No. She doesn't consent to any searches. I will be right there. And they said, "Okay, well, we'll just wait for the warrant to show up. It's on the way." And what do you know? Philly Chris and I swing over there. And by the time I get there, the police are no longer there. So it turns out that warrant was imaginary.
Yeah, the police are allowed to lie to you. It's interesting how that works, right, Mike? They can say whatever they want. They can lie and infringe on your rights. Yeah, and most cops are good, but what's that?
Eric Krebs says, "I highly recommend U.S. Law Shield CB." Saying, "Oh, can I add my fiance?" Absolutely. They get you taken care of. As a matter of fact, CB, if you've got my email address, if you want to email me, I'll put you in touch with the representative who will get you whatever promotions they're giving to the people at the seminars right now, because you get special promotions if you come out to the seminars. I will make sure he gets you set up with those, send you complimentary copies of my book as well. I'll even autograph them for you. We'll get those out to you. So shoot me an email and remind me. I will connect you with Mr. Brian Nelson, and he'll get you taken care of.
Yeah. Use promo code Zucchini.
What's that?
Use promo code Zucchini.
We need to ask Law Shield about that. Maybe we can put that in there.
Morning with the Law Matters. I got to do that clean now, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're in the rogue hours anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
Only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Who is next out of the Mike G in the Morning listeners that we're having on the program?
Rita?
Yeah.
We have
her
three more,
Rita.
but Rita would be next, I think.
All right. Moving right along.
Yeah, you guys talk. I'll put up the privacy thing.
And we just want to let y'all know we have Randy and then Sean. So we're getting to you guys. We went a little bit over with some of the interviews, but Randy and Sean, stand by.
Stand by. We will get to you any moment. You don't want to duck out on us. If we can't get a hold of you, then you will be receiving the Mustard Award. As of right now, it is only Mr. Joe Smalley who's getting the Mustard Award.
There we go.
We want to avoid the Mustard Award. I really enjoyed having Monty on the program, and I'm glad that we were able to arrange that. See, I got to threaten people with Mustard Awards so they come on.
That's a good point.
And then we have these great conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
These excellent conversations.
Your call has been forwarded to an
automatic. Okay, hang on. Got to silence. How do I kick? Remove.
I would hang up so her number's not there.
We don't want to leave her a Mike G in the Morning message.
No. Might have been a little later than
I had to turn off
I see that Scotty
hang on.
in the comments over here.
We are receiving a call. Hang on just a second.
Russ, make sure that we tuck that out of there so that nobody can see her number.
Yeah, it's not there.
Rita,
Okay.
you were on with Mike G in the morning.
Hi.
Hello?
Rita, are you?
Yes, with you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining the program, Rita. It is long overdue. You've been a very faithful listener of the program, and we appreciate your participation. Remember last week when we were going through the comments, you said that you've got a UFO story for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do. It's kind of strange, actually. When it happened, I actually wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I had it stuck in my jewelry box, stuck in the back of a closet. So I dug it out, and it's dated January 9th of 1992.
Wow.
Really?
It
That's
happened a
interesting.
long time ago.
January 9th, huh? Interesting date.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly happened? Why don't you fill us in?
Well, I was in my backyard with my dog, and it was nighttime, and something hovered over the trees in my backyard, and it was a huge spotlight, and it was on me and my dog. So I'm thinking, what is that? Is it a helicopter? Because it's hovering, but it was silent. There was no noise whatsoever, no engine noise. So anyway, I'm thinking, well, what do I do? Run in the house? You know, I didn't know if I should be afraid or not, but I'm adventurous, and I just stayed out there, and I thought, well, what happens? No, but I stayed out there. It was for a while, and it was like in the shape of an L, and it had lights, like different color lights. And I remember I actually ran in the house and grabbed a piece of paper and just made the L and put the lights on it and everything.
Wow.
But at the very bottom was a huge spotlight, and it wouldn't move. It was just stationary. And so I actually came up on my porch on the deck, and I'm looking up at it, and I'm thinking, wow, this is really cool. What is it?
Yeah.
So when it went to leave, it had like a really loud whoosh sound, almost like whoosh. And it was like super loud, and it had two white lights in the front, sort of like headlights, but the one bottom spotlight stayed on. So I go in the house, I tell my husband, and he said, well, why don't you call the police and see if there's any other sightings of anything? And I said, no, I'm not calling the police. They'll come with a straitjacket.
Yeah, right.
So back then, they probably would have, no.
Right,
But,
right before all this stuff is coming out that we're seeing all over on the news. I will tell you this, Rita. I've known you for a few years. I see you all the time at seminars and everything. And you're what I call a pretty credible person, meaning when you say something, I believe what you say. Philly Chris, not so sure.
Hold on a minute, ladies.
He's been telling me about this UFO stuff for years, and half the time I tune him out. I will tell you something. The story you just told me coming from your mouth makes me more inclined to believe that anything that, and Philly Chris could explain the ins and outs. Do you have any theories as to what she was seeing, Philly Chris? Because you know this stuff really, really well. You know, the wish stuff, I know you talk about what do you call them? Gravitational propulsion devices?
Yeah, the gravitational propulsion systems. And what's interesting, I did have the opportunity to talk to Rita briefly on the phone earlier, and she basically just described it exactly how she mentioned it earlier. And I did find it quite fascinating because the account that she just gave is very similar to the majority of what you would call the credible eyewitness accounts, because based on what Bob Lazar has discussed and Luis Elizondo from the Pentagon, the ATIP program, these craft, if they do in fact have the gravitational propulsion system that we've seen some of the documents come out about, they are extremely quiet. However, they do create some noise with the plasma that's being injected through the bottom through the gravitational propulsion waves. It's essentially antimatter reactor, some type of reactor in these devices that can tap into the gravitational waves of the universe, is my understanding from the research I have done. And you also mentioned some lights, different color lights, and there's something called red and blue shifting. Just like in astronomy, astronomers can tell if stars are moving toward us or away from us because they either red or blue shift, and because of the change in the gravitational waves underneath, you may see those various colors apparently. So, yeah, it's a fascinating account. Thanks for sharing it. And it's interesting because a lot of people have been pushed away from sharing these, like you mentioned. People who are like, I don't want to be deemed crazy, but the government has clearly been hiding this stuff, and I can understand your decision not to do that at the time, but more and more people are coming out now sharing this. So thank you for doing that.
Have you told anybody, aside from when you went in the house, have you told people this story over the years?
No. I did tell our friend Scott the other day. Well, I saw him a couple of weeks ago, and I told him about it. But that's something that I keep to myself. But there is a conclusion to this, and that is after I went in the house, my husband said, call and see if there's anything going on. Well, the next day, when we were watching the news that night, it had sightings all the way from New York down to Florida, and they reported it on the news. And so I pulled out a map and I looked at the map, and it was almost like a straight line going from New York down to Florida. But they've had a lot of people that called in around those areas, the different states, and they all saw something that night. So
interesting.
Like weird.
That is incredible. So you weren't alone. And it's not like the days of the internet where things would be posted all over the place right away, right? It was a little bit different in 1992, no?
Yeah, I didn't have the internet then.
Her description of the shape is pretty well documented too. There's things online, you can see pictures people have captured, and they sort of look like a boomerang. It kind of looked like that, like a shape, like a V-shaped triangle, but it was open in the back, sort of like a boomerang would be. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, it was like an L, just
like an L. Okay. Yeah, it could be the angle.
The angle. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like a boomerang could very well look like an L depending on the angle, right? That's totally plausible.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
I can't believe this right now. You're winning me over, Rita.
Thanks for
and another
helping
thing too, the light looked like it was as big as a football field.
Wow.
It was huge.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty interesting situation to be in, and I'm glad that you weren't afraid. That's interesting that you stayed out there. You said you're quite a little adventurer, which I love. I feel like I'm that way too.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
great.
What
were you thinking? Because that's a good point. I'm sure a lot of people would duck and hide if they saw something like that. What was going through your mind?
Well, I always wanted to be a pilot.
Oh.
And I love to fly. I would live on a plane and never land on Earth if I had the chance to.
That's awesome.
So, and when I die, I'm looking forward to jumping from cloud to cloud to cloud.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, I always want to be in the air, and my friends all have their own airplanes, and where I volunteer, I'm able to get rides from them, so it's really cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great.
So
you've probably flown a little bit. You've been behind the controls, probably. A little bit.
Next question.
Lawyer up and shut up, right?
No.
How about them Yankees, right? How about them Yankees?
Yeah, right.
No, what I did was I went to an airport and took a discovery flight.
Oh, wonderful.
Where they give you a 1-hour tutorial. They give you instructions, and then you're able to fly. And I went out of Reading Airport, and it was really cool. I've done that a couple of times with the Discovery flight, and they let you take control of of the plane, and you fly it, and it's really cool.
That is very cool, Rita. Very
cool.
Well, do you have anything that you want to tell our listeners before we let you go? I really appreciate you joining us. Fascinating story. It may have changed my life, just so you know. I didn't mean to say that Philly Chris is not credible. All I'm saying is the jury's still out on that one.
Sure. Well,
okay.
We know the answer, Mike.
Well, I do have another story, but you have other people you want to get on, and so that would have to be another night. But do we want to leave them hanging?
Do we want to leave them hanging? I'm personally dying to hear the story. What do you think, Philly Chris? Let's take a vote.
Let's hear it.
You want to hear it? What about you, Russ? Russ, the producer? You vote yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not about spaceships or anything. This is about U.S. Law Shield.
Okay. Fair enough.
Well, I have been to about 13 seminars. I've also done a lot of the U.S. Law Shield women webinars and the Lawyer Guns and Freedom webinars also. So by me going to the seminars, the first one I ever went to was the virtual reality.
Right.
And that was really cool. I can't wait to do that again. Oh my God, it was just so informative. And then the second one I did was with you, Mike. That was the first time I ever met you, and that was the On Trial. And you wouldn't let me have Scott on my team, even though I didn't know Scott. No, he's on my team. So, but anyway, whenever I go to seminars, I learn something different every time. So that's my preface, and here's what I'm going to say now. Last year I was involved in a really bad car accident, and so when the EMT put me into the back of the ambulance, I was carrying, right? So when the guy had hit me upon impact, my cell phone fell on the floor. It was in the charger, and it fell on the floor. And I went to reach down for it because the airbags went off and everything. So I didn't know how. I had to call my daughter because she would take my dog out for a walk, if I'm going to be out for a while. And I knew I was on my way to the hospital. But when the guy hit me, when I picked up my phone, I didn't know how to call my daughter. I couldn't figure out my phone. Like
wow.
I have a traumatic brain injury.
Oh my goodness.
So so the guy, he asked me the usual questions. Who's the president? And what's your name and all that. So anyway, I knew that I knew I had my gun on me, in my waistband. And I kept focusing on that. It's weird because I don't know if I passed out when I got hit. I don't remember, but I didn't know how to call my daughter, and I didn't know what medications that I was taking, and I had it in my phone, but didn't know how to find it. So anyway, the guy puts me in the back of the ambulance, and the cop comes over. He starts asking me questions. And so, and the EMT's trying to get my medical information at the same time, too. So the cop is standing, the police officer, he's standing outside talking to me, through the back, and he wanted my ID. I said, okay, can you please hand me my purse? So my purse was at my feet, and he just unzipped my purse and starts rooting through it. He's trying to pull this stuff out. And I kept saying, can you please give me my purse? And he kept still trying to rummage through my purse. So I said, sir, can you please give me my purse? He said he couldn't pull my stuff out. It was in too tight. I said, okay, well, give me my purse. So I pulled out my wallet, and I pulled out my driver's license, and I handed it to him. And he said, okay. And I said, wait 1 second, officer. I said, I have one more thing to get you, to give you. And he didn't say anything. So I'm trying to pull it out, and I gave him my permit to carry, and he looked. I didn't say a word. But I had the mindset of what I was doing just for that, even though I didn't know anything else around me, So I handed him the license to carry, and he looks at it and he said, "Oh, are you carrying?" I said, "Mm-hmm." "Oh, well, where is it?" "My waistband." Where? So I pointed to it, didn't touch it, pointed to it. And so the EMT guy's like bending over me. He kept pulling up I had a t-shirt on. He kept pulling up my t-shirt to put the EKG leads on me,
Right.
And so I knew I had to say something because even though it was hidden,
sure,
in a waistband, I didn't want him to be surprised.
Right. Yeah. It could have become obvious.
I wasn't really going to tell him. I wasn't going to tell him because we don't have to in Pennsylvania. But anyway, he looked at it and he said, okay. So he didn't know if he should come in and get it off of me, get into the ambulance. And so the EMT guy says, well, officer, if you want, I'll give it, I'll take it out of the holster and give it to you. So then I said to him, well, just be careful because there's one in the chamber. the officers looking.
You've been well trained, apparently. Mm-hmm.
Well, Mike and so, but anyway, he hands it to the officer, and he took it to run the number, the serial number, and all that. So he comes back and he says, I think I might give it to you. And I said, oh, okay, I'm going to the hospital, So he says, well, I debated on whether or not to give it to you. And he said, but I think I'm going to keep it. And when you're out of the hospital, then you come in. When you feel good, give me a call and I'll meet you and I'll give you back your gun. I said, okay. So anyway, when the cop leaves, the EMT guy, he says to me, and this was so cool. He says to me, oh, I just want to thank you for being a supporter of the Second Amendment. And he goes,
awesome.
I carry too. And I said, oh, I can't carry now. He says, I don't bring it to work, because he works on the ambulance. But he said, I just want to say thank you for supporting, the Second Amendment.
You never know who's one of the good guys, right? Isn't that the beauty of it, though? You got over 1 million people with a license to carry in Pennsylvania. And little do the bad guys know that Rita will not be a victim.
There you go.
Yeah,
awesome.
and you know what? In closing, it's if I didn't go to all these seminars and hear Mike saying the things that he said, that outcome would have been different, because I would have been really nervous. I probably would have reached for it to hand it to him. Right. You know what I mean? But by hearing Mike saying what he says, and by paying attention, it's like it's in my brain. It's like,
absolutely,
I knew what to do, which was really cool. And I thought, you know what? I'm really glad I attend the seminars, and I'm really glad I pay attention, because it could have had a different outcome. And the guy was really sweet, the officer. And when I went to go pick it up about a week later, I actually shook his hand and I said, "Thank you for being so professional and so nice."
That's great.
And so I wanted to load the mag up, but I didn't. And he said something to me, and I already knew the law. And so he said, "Wow, you're very well versed." I said, "Well, thank you."
Yeah, a thing or two about a thing or two. That makes.
I've been to a U.S. Law Shield seminar with Mike G.
Exactly.
It really does make me feel great. I can't tell you how great that makes me feel, Rita, to hear that the educational portion of things that we do, was applied to a real life situation. And it helped you get through that situation in a positive manner, and that you felt that much more comfortable because of all those sessions that we did. That makes me feel great. I appreciate you. I'm glad we kept you around for the second story too. I appreciate that. I'm sorry. We hope that you're recovering well.
It's a long road. I still have issues and stuff like that, but I'll get there. And that's my goal. I mean, I just want to be the best I can be, and be able to take care of myself.
Well, will you come out to a range and do a video with the Mike G in the Morning gang? What do you think?
I would love to.
I would love to. Oh, this is going to be great. We're putting together an epic video. This is great. We've got Amani. We've got Rita. This is going to be great. I can't wait, Rita. We'd love to have you back on the.
It's going to take a while, though. I mean, it's not going to be soon.
We are with you.
I'm going to hold you to that, Mike.
We are with you. Everybody needs to keep Rita in their prayers. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening. Excellent guest. Love you having on the show. Having you on the show, and we'd love to have you back again soon.
Oh, I have lots of stories.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. Thank you so much, Rita. You have a good night.
You guys have a good night.
Take care.
You too. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks for making
time.
Bye.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So who do we got next? Who avoided the mustard? That was really great stories.
Yeah, that was
stories.
Awesome.
We are 2 for 2. I mean, we had special guests with Rich Roberts and Simon Campbell, and we're absolutely 2 for 2 on the listener guests. Russ, why don't you fire up the next one?
Yeah, the next one is going to be Randy. Let me just get him in here first.
Randy was this close to getting the mustard. He actually also already got a mustard award of sorts. He's the reigning, defending mustard champion.
Didn't we send Randy mustard?
We did send Randy mustard. We'll have to ask. We'll have him tell the story.
We'll have to ask him to send it back.
It's send back the mustard award so we can give it to a new recipient.
Can't return a mustard award. That's against the rule.
That was some good mustard.
Is this Randy?
This is Randy.
Randy, you're on with Mike G in the morning.
How you doing, Mike?
Thank you so much for joining us. You avoided the mustard award by participating. You know that?
Well, that's comforting. I don't know if you remember or not, but I'm the one that you sent the mustard and bagels to.
That's
we're going to need that
say.
back.
I was going to say that you are the reigning, defending mustard champion. So now there's going to be a new mustard award. Why don't you tell everybody that story? Because that was a great story. I really enjoyed that.
Can we call you Colonel Mustard?
Well, you had posted something on Facebook, and I responded to it. I forget what the subject was even about, and I told you that you were going to get the mustard award. And so you responded to it, and you actually sent me a message through Messenger for my address and stuff. And the next thing I know, about a week later, I'm getting this box set on my back porch here. I didn't know what the heck it was from. I'm like, who the heck is this delicatessen? Where the heck is this from? And I opened the box, and there's a jar of mustard in there. Some what else was in there? There was mustard in there, and there was another jar of something else in there, and there was some bagels. I think there was horseradish in there.
Oh, there you go. That worked. Maybe there'd be a horseradish award for the runner-up of the mustard award. Right.
Yeah. Well, the horseradish. Well, both of them, the mustard and the horseradish, was really good. But the horseradish, I'm a sucker for homemade horseradish.
Really?
Stuff that. Oh yeah. You stick your nose to the jar and you burn the inside of your nostrils out. That's what I like.
No kidding. We'll have to try that. Well, that sounds like a video in and of itself. I believe I remember what the topic was, Randy. If I'm not mistaken, it was the Pennsylvania case where they addressed the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, and we didn't talk about it on. Philly Chris and I had done some kind of impromptu Saturday version of the program, one of those rogue things, and we didn't mention it at all, and that was big news that weekend. And you said, he was like, I thought for sure that you guys were going to talk about this, Second Amendment guys. You don't even mention it once. You're going to get the mustard award.
Yeah, kind of deserved it. You sprung my memory. That's exactly what it was from. But Mike, I got to say thank you for everything you do with U.S. Law Shield. I met you. My fiance and I met you about 5 years ago in Buckhorn, Pennsylvania. That was the first seminar we attended. And we liked it so much, we started going to them. We try to go to like 2 or 3 a year at least. And I was going through some stuff financially with my ex-wife and that, so I wasn't able to join until a little over a year ago. So my fiance and I both are members because of you. And the book that you wrote, I read your book. I just finished it a couple of weeks ago, actually. Enjoyed it, and I put it to use all the time. I'm constantly debating people on Facebook on certain pages, and when they try to say one thing, I'll tell you the one that I get a lot when people start saying about the gun show loophole.
Oh.
And I tell them, like we get into discussions, and they right away you can almost immediately tell that they don't know what they're talking about. Sure. And when I tell them,
up in confusion.
Oh yeah, and they get blatantly rude with you. I told them that the one thing that a lot of people don't know about, and myself included until I read Mike's book, was that you cannot privately sell even long guns to somebody if they are not a resident of the state that you are in.
That's right. Federal law.
I didn't know that. And the one guy kept coming back at me, oh, you're a fool, this and that. And, I go to gun laws, or I go to gun shows all the time, and I tell them, and to the point where I memorized the section. It's Title 18, Section 922, subsection A, paragraph 3, paragraph 5. I mean, I rattle it right off
Turn
with
this
them.
guy into a lawyer, Mike. We got another lawyer.
Randy,
and the sad part is they still deny. They still, like, I give it to them. I send them the link, and they still deny it. Like, I'm like, what are you guys smoking?
You're dealing with people who are not founded in reality, though, Randy. That's what it comes down to. When they don't have the facts on their side, they weren't really interested in learning the facts in the first place. That's why they always resort to the straight denial of what's right in front of their face, as well as the name calling, like you said. You said they get downright rude. That's entirely common.
Right. And, that particular guy, I told him, I said, look, don't believe a word I said. I said, just disregard everything I told you. Do yourself a favor before you become what Mike considers an accidental criminal. I said, talk to an attorney that knows about gun laws. Right. I said, and even if you want to really go after it, call the ATF and ask them.
Yeah. How about you go ahead and do the illegal transfer between states, and then call the ATF and let them know, hey, I was so confident that I knew more about the law than Randy did, that I sold this guy in Ohio a gun, and he sold me his among the states, and we didn't go through an FFL. That's perfectly fine, Mr. Guy at the ATF, right? And then when some guys in black suits show up at your front door, and you go away for 10 years, and then at that point, you'll know that Randy was right. That's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? After I told him that, I didn't hear another response from him.
Did you tell him you won the mustard award? Because that would have had some credibility if you mentioned the mustard award.
No, I didn't say nothing about the mustard award, but I'll tell you, if I knew where to send it, I would have sent them one.
That's where you went wrong, Randy. Had you mentioned the mustard award, the conversation would have went completely differently.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll know for next time.
So you're the Randy who won the mustard award.
That's right.
It's like
I got the mustard award on the Mike G in the Morning show, and he's a gun lawyer, so I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yep. And by the way, Chris, you're getting the mustard award yourself.
You're good.
I probably deserve it. Yeah.
Chris getting the mustard award.
Well, the other day when you called me to verify that I'd be available, you told me that Russ would be calling me between 7:30 and 8 o'clock.
Well, then I totally deserved the mustard award. And I do apologize because we went very long.
No, that's fine. I've been listening the whole time, and I've been enjoying it. I especially enjoyed Rita's last story about getting in the accident, which I'm glad to hear she's doing better. And the story she told about the firearm, I really enjoyed. I actually had a similar story like that.
Really?
I wasn't in an accident, but this is going back to 1993. This is when the first Pennsylvania concealed carry permit that I held, which was a paper permit, no picture, no nothing.
Wow.
And my cousin and I were decked out in camo. It was the first day of archery season, and we were headed out past Mountaintop, Pennsylvania, to go hunting for the afternoon. And there's a spot up there. I don't travel that particular road very often. There's a spot up there where the speed limit abruptly changes from 45 down to 25 for about a mile, and then it goes back up to 45. I completely forgot about it. Next thing I know, there's lights coming on behind me. I'm like, oh God, what the heck did I do? And my cousin, who knows that I carry, he asked me, he goes, where's your registration? I said, that's in the glove box. He goes, where's your gun? I was like, that's in the glove box. He's like, oh crap.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, no problem. So the guy came up to me, the officer came up to the side of the car, said, how you doing today? And like I said, we're decked out in head-to-toe camo. And he asked me for my license and registration. I pulled my wallet out. I gave him my license. I said, here's my license. And then I handed him my permit. I said, and this is so you don't get nervous when I open the glove box. And he opened the paper up. He looked at it, and he's like, oh, okay. And he took 2 steps back, put his hand on his sidearm, and he goes, okay, go ahead. And I opened the glove box, and with 2 fingers, I pulled my full-size Ruger P89 out of the glove box, set it on the dashboard. I got my registration and my insurance out, and I handed it to him. And he was looking at it. He's like, okay. He goes, I'll be back in a minute. He goes, do me a favor. Don't reach for that weapon. I was like, not a problem.
A favor?
Yeah.
And if you don't do me this favor, I'm going to shoot you in the face, by the way.
Yeah, really.
Not really.
And he went back
I
to
don't
his...
consider that a favor, do you?
Not really. But he had, he went back to his cruiser, and he was back there a couple minutes, and my cousin's looking at me. He goes, we're going to die. And he was only joking around, but he was just, you could tell he was nervous. He wanted to crawl inside his sneakers. But he came back, and he handed me my license and registration, all that stuff. And he's like, well, I want to thank you for being honest about your having a firearm. I was like, well, I don't have a reason not to be. I said,
sure.
I find it good practice to either be honest about it rather than have myself face down in the middle of the road with a gun to the back of my head. And he looked at me and he just chuckled. Yeah. So he goes, well, I'm just going to let you off with a little warning this time, and gave us the stuff. And he goes, have a good day. Yeah. He asked, he goes, where are you hunting? And we told him, and he goes, okay, well, good luck. And he started walking back to his cruiser. My cousin looked at me, he goes, he's going home to kiss his wife right now. Because if you think about it, if I was the officer and I was in that same situation, the first thing I would have done was either take the firearm back to the cruiser with me,
right,
or at least put it on the roof of the car. That way, because face it, that was a paper permit. How did he know that it was valid or not?
Yeah, it's like written in crayon.
Right. My windows were tinted in the back. The back two, it was a Cutlass Supreme. So I had the back windows and everything tinted. He wouldn't have known if I reached for that firearm or not.
Yeah,
I could have been cocked and ready, waiting for him to come back.
Yeah, I would say, especially this day and age with the way tensions are and things are, you would certainly want the officer to be the one to retrieve the firearm rather than you do it yourself while he has his hand on his gun ready to shoot you if something goes sideways. I'd rather just let him handle that for me.
Oh, absolutely.
That's probably the best way to go these days. Well, but I'm glad that one worked out for you. I know you hadn't been to any U.S. Law Shield seminars at that point because I was playing T-ball in 1993.
No, I hadn't even. Well, I don't even think U.S. Law Shield was a thing back then.
Yeah, no, 2009. That's right, 2009. Unfortunately, the U.S. Law Shield family has gotten so big over these last 12 or so years. We're pushing up on around 700,000 members nationwide right now. It's really phenomenal. And I really enjoy, you're talking about how you've been to the first seminar about 5 years ago. I really enjoy getting to see members like you and like Rita and like Amani show up to seminars every so often. You're saying you come on out a couple of times a year. I believe the last time I saw you was at the Cabin up in Wilkes-Barre, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Right before the pandemic hit.
Wow. Remember those days?
Right. Yeah, right before the pandemic hit. As a matter of fact, I brought my friend Tom and Marie that I used to teach motorcycle safety with, and they became members that night.
Oh, that's great. I believe awesome. Philly Chris was actually there with me that night. He might have driven me up. And if I'm not mistaken, was that the night where that lady had that debate with me about whether you can be a Christian and still kill in self-defense? Do you remember that? Was that the night, or was that...
You got a hell of a good memory you got there, because that was.
Yeah.
My fiance and I were looking at each other like, what the heck is she doing here?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
like you do know.
I mean,
this
God
is the
love
gun
her for
law
being.
seminar, right? The knitting seminar
Yeah,
is next week.
like we got, God love her for being a Christian. We're Christians too, but let's face it, the world is an ugly place. And
well, she was totally wrong. That's what it came down to, and she didn't want to hear anything that I had to say. But I had just had Dr. Greg Hopkins, who's also a pastor and also a lawyer, on my program, I think a couple of weeks before that, talking about all this. He wrote a book called A Time to Kill the Myth of Christian Pacifism, Self-Defense in the Bible, and talked about all these nonsense things that she was saying. So I tried to politely, I'm not politely addressing them now, obviously, calling them nonsense and calling her a knucklehead and everything. But I tried to politely address her concerns in hopes that some reasoning and some logic and some facts introduced to the conversation would change the way it went. But obviously that's not the way, the way it went. You can't reason with some people. But, Hopkins was just on the program a few weeks before that talking about how the true correct translation is thou shalt not murder rather than kill, because you could have justifiable killings to protect yourself, to protect a loved one. The Lord doesn't expect us to let somebody come over and kill your child in front of your face and not do anything about it, right? It just seems obvious. If you're familiar with the Bible, you're familiar with Christianity, that just wouldn't sit right with you. You'd say, everything I know about this, that doesn't seem right. That seems off. But yeah, I remember. I certainly do remember that night, Randy.
Yeah, she sat there the rest of the night with a scowl on her face. Like at that point, when you called for a break for everybody to go, take a break. If that was me, I'd have been gone. I wouldn't have even wanted to sit there for the rest of it. But I don't know, maybe she wanted to hear the rest of what you had to say. But I honestly couldn't understand what the heck she was doing there in the first place. If that's, if that was her mindset.
It's like all these people that send me the hate mail with the radio program, right? I get these nasty emails and stuff about people who don't like the show. It's like, dude, change the channel. I'm not forcing you to watch this program, right? But
it's funny because I listen to news radio at 3 o'clock when I get out of work on WILK up here, and I actually know the radio host pretty well. He's been in this area. He worked for WNEP as a newscaster for, oh my God, a lifetime. But there's so many people that call into him, and or they'll send him text messages on the air, and he reads them, unless they're too much profanity. But he reads them, and there's so many people that call up, and they'll criticize him, and you shouldn't even be on the radio, and he just says, well, thank you for calling, but there is a dial there, you can either change it or turn it off.
It is
so I don't know why people listen if they don't like it. I mean, I certainly wouldn't sit there and watch SpongeBob because I don't like the show. Turn the channel.
You just upset Russ.
That's where I stopped liking you, Randy.
Well, I don't dislike it because my son grew up watching it, my daughter grew up watching it, but
it's not exactly what you're looking to watch. It's not exactly
No.
the top of your list.
It's not something you're gonna watch on purpose, right?
Right. Not anymore.
What's funny though, Randy, is I found out that there's actually an episode of SpongeBob that is solely related to mustard. The episode revolves around mustard. So we're going to have to do something with that at some point.
Next week on the program, SpongeBob. And
it's scary. I think I actually remember that one.
Wow. No. Now look at you with the memory, Randy.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I do remember that. Believe me, I've watched hundreds of their episodes with my son and then again with my daughter afterwards.
That's funny. That's fun. I don't know what drives these people though to continue to listen to radio programs that they don't enjoy. Like when they go to a restaurant and eat a meal that they really don't like. Like, this is my least favorite meal. I'll have it again, sir. Like, keep ordering it over and over again. What is wrong with these people?
I think I'll order a nail and chalkboard machine, sir.
Yeah.
Can I have that, and can I have the sound amplified and pumped directly into my ears?
That's the type of sound you want when Biden's talking.
Yeah, it might be better.
That's all I hear when Biden's talking.
right?
Yeah.
Like I listened to him yesterday about the gun control and all that stuff, and you know, I listened to it this morning because I didn't get a chance to get it on the air last night, but I listened to it this morning while I was at work, and I looked at my foreman. I said, you know, whenever I hear his voice, I get the sudden urge to have my ears sewn shut.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have. I don't. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm assuming you watched that yesterday.
We were actually going to watch it on the air. Sometimes I like to see things fresh.
I started watching it.
You get my natural commentary from it, and I haven't seen it before. There's nobody's poisoned the well, so to speak. So we were actually going to watch that here in a few minutes. So if you do go to bed, just check it out tomorrow.
Yes, check it out on Rumble.
When you watch it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like he generally seemed exhausted, like more than usual. You know, there's a reason why they call him Sleepy Joe Biden. But man, the way he was talking, he seemed really exhausted. Like he was having trouble getting words out, far more than normal.
Yeah,
they wouldn't let him have his nap.
It's sad though, right?
Yeah. Oh, it is. It was sad. That you know, that's kind of what I'm getting at. I kept watching. I'm like, geez, isn't somebody going to step in here and like, you know, sir, it's time for your nap?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
how much longer are they going to do this to this poor guy? Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that video. Randy, you got to get some kind of the opposite of the Mustard Award, right? For participating and joining us. And you got such great stories and everything. We really appreciate what a loyal listener you've been on the program. And, you know, if we end up doing that video, maybe we could head on up to Wilkes-Barre or something like that and get you involved. That would be great.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun. I was looking forward to it all day. Actually, Mike, you might even get a chance. You know, you might see a little more of me sometime in the future. I'm actually looking into part-time work with U.S. Law Shield. So
that would be great. That would be great. We'd love to have you with the family. Who did you speak to so far? Do you remember who you've spoken to?
I talked to Brian at the last seminar, which, as a matter of fact, Rich Richards was the attorney at the last seminar up at the cabin.
Rich Roberts.
Rich Roberts. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll have to bust his chops on that one. He's like, come on, man. And people always mess up my name because it's difficult to pronounce, but he's got two first names, so that's what gets confusing for him.
Gotta watch out for this guy.
Rich Richards. He gets Robert Richardson. He gets everything, but it'll be fun. So yeah. I'll put in a good word with Brian for you.
Yeah, I asked him about it because I made a comment on one of the posts that U.S. Law Shield puts on Facebook about employment, and they actually messaged me with a link of, you know, what to look at, and basically all I have to do is put a resume together. And then I talked to Brian about it at the last seminar, which was on Mother's Day, and he explained to me how it goes, and my only concern was, you know, how far they would have me driving, which normally wouldn't be a problem, but if it's a seminar during the week, you know, I get up at 4:45 in the morning to get ready for work. So
my goodness.
So yeah, I'm at work by 6:30. So, but he told me that he never schedules anybody more than an hour's drive, and I said, well, that's fine with me. I'm perfect with that.
That would be great. It would be really cool to get to work with you. I'll have to, Philly, Chris, and I will put in a good word with Brian for you. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Sure, I appreciate it.
Looking forward to my Mustard Award, too. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're getting the Mustard Award. We're sending it to him.
Yeah, sorry about the mix-up on the time, my friend. I apologize.
Oh, that's no problem. I was just busting your chops.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We're glad you're on the show.
Thank you so much for joining us, Randy. We look forward to having you back on the program again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
Too.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Who do we got left? Is it Sean? Is Sean our last one?
Yes, I'm getting him now.
What a great guest then, Randy, right? Man, we are 3 for 3 on guests with the listeners popping in.
Mm-hmm.
I love these conversations with our listeners when they call in. Absolutely. I know sometimes people get shy.
Right.
In the old days, that's really all the program was. People calling in from the beginning to the end, and I loved getting to hear all the different perspectives. I love doing it. So we got to do this more often. I know it's more difficult with the format and the way the world has changed. I hate that phrase, the new normal. I can't stand it.
Oh yeah, the new normal. Yeah, whatever that is.
Hello, Sean. Do we have you? This is Mike G from Mike G in the Morning.
Mike G and Philly Chris.
Hey, how are you?
Great. How are you doing?
We saved the greatest for last. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Lawyer up and shut up.
Hey,
now we're talking.
I'm getting an echo, guys.
This is great. He's gonna give everybody else a run for their money. So, Sean, thank you first of all for being such a loyal listener of the program. We see you often participating on social media and getting involved. I do want to ask this though: this day and age, with how controversial so many different things are, when you go out there and you support, let's say, our Second Amendment, do you ever get concerned that if you go out there in support of this kind of thing, that people are going to give you any kinds of problems for it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know that there's such a, I guess, an undercurrent of dislike and almost hatred for the Second Amendment and for law-abiding gun owners. That was a question that I wanted to put out. Like, what actually is the root cause of all of this negativity about the Second Amendment? I mean, people, the elite, the people that are in charge that are trying to set these laws. Some of them, they got to have their head on that they know that law-abiding gun owners are not the problem.
Sure. Yeah. Well, anybody with the intelligence that God gave geese would understand that, right? So you're either dealing with people who are incredibly, incredibly stupid, or they've got some kind of ulterior motive, right?
Right. I thought what is the root thing here? What is that ulterior motive? I don't get it.
Yeah, well, depending on how you look at it, if you look at the reason for our Second Amendment to prevent government tyranny, these might be people who want a government that is that powerful that they can control, the peasants, so to speak, like we are, and the non-elite, right?
Yeah.
And
I guess you're right.
They disarm the people, then they can get away with whatever they wish, right?
Right. Do whatever you want, tell you what to do, wear a mask, get a vaccine, do this, do that, stay in your house.
Welcome to 2021, yeah.
And these same people who go out there and say, oh, well, your guns that you have now aren't going to prevent tyranny because the government is all too powerful, are really the same people. And Russ, I'm going to give you credit for this because you threw this out there. Same people who say that they were so fearful by the unarmed, quote unquote, insurrection that took place on January 6th, right? These are people who did not show up with firearms of any kind. And they said that they took over the government, basically. And those are the same people who say, oh, well, you don't need the Second Amendment because you won't be able to compete with the government anyhow. It's a lot. There's no logic there. So is it control? Perhaps. That could be it. I think ignorance definitely plays a role in this stuff often.
It's control.
It's control. It's not ignorance. It's control. You can't tell me that none of them are just so stupid that they don't understand, though. You can't tell me that none of them fall into that category.
No,
because
there
are people who fall into that category.
Right? Definitely right. Sure. Yeah. We've talked.
What about also the idea that people don't like the idea of having that responsibility on them to protect themselves and their loved ones, right?
Yeah.
Saying, well, I don't want to own a gun. I don't want to.
Yeah,
I'm too
people say that to me.
Have that option to protect myself. I'm too afraid for that responsibility to be on me to do that. I'd rather pass that off onto the government, and hopefully by saying that nobody could have guns, well, that kind of takes the responsibility off me. The decision's made for me, right?
You need to have your responsibility. You got to be responsible for yourself. Personal responsibility. That's my motto. I got a story to tell you about firearms. I got a story to tell you if you got a minute.
Yeah, of course. That's what you're here for.
Yeah.
I've had a carry permit or license to carry firearms probably since I was 21. And that was what woke me up. At one time, I had somebody pull a firearm on me. And luckily, I was nothing. It didn't escalate to a problem, but he pulled a firearm, and I picked up a sledgehammer.
Wow! Wow!
Yeah, right. Like how smart was that?
What I thought it was next. I want to hear what happened next.
Go bring a sledgehammer to a gunfight.
Sounds like bonking time.
Yeah, bring a hammer. I was going to be Thor, right, and block the bullets with it, but I don't know what I was going to do, throw it at him or what. But it was foolish on my part. But yeah, ever since then, I decided, you know what, you got to take responsibility for yourself, and because I mean, as much as we all follow, you know, the police, and like we say, they are investigating crimes. They're not preventing them.
Right. Yeah. They're first responders. They respond after the fact. Sean, what happened? Was Bag of Bees not around back then, that you couldn't have that to protect yourself?
Yeah, that's about right.
They didn't have the Cobra in a can back then.
Yeah, right.
Now, I've seen you over at seminars for the last many years. Known you for quite a while at this point, and I always love seeing guys like you who come on out to the seminars multiple times to refresh your memory and stay sharp. And really what it comes down to, and I've said this on Newsmax television before, but when I get a call from somebody on that emergency line and I recognize who it is, if I got a call from Sean, or if I got a call from Scott or Rita or Randy, these people who have been to multiple seminars, and you recognize their name, you recognize their face, their voice, I know that when they call me, I'm not going to hear that they did something that was outside the bounds of the law. I'm confident when that kind of a person's on the other line that, okay, we're going to work with it. We're going to be okay here. They didn't do anything wrong. I can work with this. They didn't go ahead and not lawyer up and shut up, right? They followed the law at the outset. And even if the government does try to jam them up on this, we're going to fight this. We're going to win.
Right.
You know, when you get somebody who calls in, you don't recognize them. Sometimes you find out they never even been to a seminar. They just signed up online. Now, it's great that they signed up, because what's even worse is when I get a call at my office from somebody who got my business card at a gun show or something like that, or a gun store, and they say they never got around to signing up for US. That's the worst call. The worst call that I get is somebody's doing this out of it. They're going to have to try to do this out of their own pocket, because they not only didn't come to seminars, but they didn't sign up for the program. But I love getting, I don't want to say, I never loved getting that call for anybody having to be in that situation. But anytime I do get that call from somebody like you, Sean, I'm confident that we're going to be okay. Does that make you feel all the more comfortable as a gun owner, the fact that, you know, you've been through these seminars and you're familiar with the laws inside and out now, as opposed to, you know, I don't know how familiar or how comfortable you felt 5 or 6 years ago before I met you, but have you noticed that difference?
Oh, absolutely. Every seminar I go to, I come away with more knowledge, and like you said, just keep myself sharp, and of course, if things are changing, I know that you'll be right on top of it, because yeah, absolutely, yeah, I feel much better, much more educated, much more confident that I know what to do and what not to do. Absolutely. And one other thing I got to say, Simon Campbell is my new hero.
Oh yeah, he's a good guy, right?
I hope he runs for president.
Oh my, I'm voting for him.
Yeah,
that guy was absolutely, it was the best.
And he's been doing this, like I mentioned, for a long time. He's been standing up for our First Amendment rights. I don't know how he does it, but he devotes a whole lot of time and energy. That clip is just the tip of the iceberg. I hope everybody gets to see his body of work, so to speak.
Yeah.
What he's been doing. Like this guy really devotes a whole lot of time and effort to preventing government corruption. So I think he fits right in with the gang over here. We'd love to have him back on the program again. Sean, I think meet a guy like you, and you check off these boxes where a guy who's been a hardworking man for your entire life, a family man, right? Somebody who's loyal to his family, somebody who's adored by his kids. I've met your son at several seminars, and I meet a lot of people like this at our seminars in Pennsylvania and even in New Jersey. And what I mean is that when you listen to these folks in the mainstream media, they try to paint the gun owner as somebody who wakes up and can't wait to kill somebody, right? They want to tell everybody that we're these evil monsters, and that we're these scary, scary people, and that we're all these different things. They slap all of these nonsense labels on us. But really, a good amount of the people I meet, the majority of the people I meet, they're good people who love this country like yourself. They're people who love their families and do a lot make a lot of sacrifices for their families, hardworking people. Is that what you've noticed being around others in the law-abiding gun-owning community?
Absolutely. Everybody I meet are just regular, everyday guys. Same. Go to the gun range, and it's just, everyday guys, everyday people. Yeah, absolutely.
And how does it make you feel when you hear these people on the mainstream media who are clearly ignorant, and these are the same people who complain about prejudice in all these other contexts, but it's perfectly okay to make up all of these labels about gun owners? How does it make you feel?
Well, it's a little bit disconcerting, to say the least. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't get where their head is at. They either are uninformed or are deliberately misleading, which I think the mainstream media does a lot of that with some of their other things like, are you allowed to say voter fraud?
Door for door.
We are allowed to say the words voter fraud, voter fraud, voter fraud.
Voter fraud. Woo! Should have a voter fraud party.
What I've been saying, Sean, I've just been saying we all know what happened in the 2020 election. That's all I say. I just throw it in there. But we're not allowed. We are allowed to say the words voter fraud. We are not breaking the rules.
We're not saying that that happens. But
right. Yeah, we're just saying the words voter fraud. That's all. Yeah, but they really gave us a hard time about that, as you're well aware. You've been involved with the program and everything. It frustrates me when I hear all of these false labels, because I think it's an insult to guys like you, guys like Philly Chris, who worked so hard and did so much for your family and only want an option to protect yourself, and they sort of throw us all into this category that these are extremist people, they're very dangerous people, right. and that's what they want to push forward. I think it is part of a narrative. I think some of it definitely is ignorance, though. I don't know how much of it is ignorance, but I think if more people would get to go to the range with somebody like the people we meet in our community, and understand that they're regular people with regular lives, regular jobs, regular families, that might help. That might help. It's not going to help the people who have an agenda and they want control, they want what they want. But for the people who truly don't know any better and bought into the hype and drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak, I think that would help. Do you think an interaction with somebody like you could potentially change somebody's mind, Sean?
Well, absolutely. If they've never been exposed to firearms, if they've never been exposed to people that are involved with firearms and target shooting and just gun aficionados. Yeah, absolutely. It's just like a hobby for anything else. Like some people collect whatever they collect, but some of us collect firearms.
It's almost hard to believe that somebody would try it and not get totally into it too, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's difficult not to. Once you get bit by the bug, it's definitely hard to avoid. Well, every time you get one, I need another one.
Yeah,
because they keep coming out with new stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, I tell my friends, I said they're kind of like tattoos. Where getting a tattoo, you're always in the chair thinking about what your next tattoo is going to be, right? You're getting one in that present moment, and you want next. The same thing with a gun. As soon as you buy a gun, you're top of the world. Okay, what's the next one? You know what would be fun, Sean? I've got to ask you. We asked our previous guests. Would you be willing to come to a range day with the Mike G in the Morning gang?
Absolutely. Sounds like a great day. Great fun day. That would
do
be
something
awesome.
maybe in Bucks County. I know Guardian's not too terribly far from, that's right in that wheelhouse. Maybe Classic Pistol. There's a bunch of solid candidates for gun ranges in Bucks County, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you got Classic Pistol, Guardian, Ready, Aim, Fire, all of them.
Ready, Aim, Fire. Nice shout out right there. Yeah, we'll figure something out. And maybe we could do a series with this, Chris, where we go and check out a bunch of different ranges.
Absolutely.
With some of our listeners. Sean, you're certainly on the list. Do you have any parting words? I don't want to muzzle you. I don't want to suppress your freedom of speech, Sean. Do you have any parting words?
Lawyer up and shut up.
There we go.
Love it. That is a smart man. I really appreciate you coming on the show, Sean. We would love to have you back again sometime.
Heck yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. It was great being on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL.
Hey, Mike.
Now, I will tell you this. I'm looking at the clock. It is 9:36, right?
Yes, it is.
It's just a number.
369.
I say it is just a number. Here's why.
Because you don't get sleep.
Eric was listening from the Bahamas. And he's the individual who made some kind of a comment that, hey, what's the deal? No 3-hour show this week? Right? And he was disappointed we didn't have a 3-hour show.
That's right.
Since he participated, I say we go ahead and stick around for another 25 minutes and get through some of these. CB says it's early. That is my kind of guy.
There we go.
My kind of guy right there.
Right.
Why don't you go ahead and play those clips? We'll go through them and get through. I think we could do so in 25 minutes. It's not worth cutting the episode short right here, right now. We might as well, finish this one out. What do you mean to play it out?
We'll do it live.
What do you mean to play us out? I'll write it and we'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
Well, CB also says that get that trademark, lawyer up and shut up, make some T-shirts and caps.
Yeah.
Probably a good idea.
How'd you like the
T-shirt? Loud because I don't want somebody stealing it.
The T-shirts, the caps,
David,
and then we go to the.
Hold on. We might have a mustard recipient award. We've got an OG, an original gun guy.
Where?
Original gun guy. David Crespin just commented, "Good show."
Oh.
Chris, Philly Chris, you know David Crespin.
Yes.
You know David Crespin well. And he is another guy who's in the running, much like Scotty. Attended all these seminars.
Right.
And David's been attending them for years and years and years. We got to get him on the show sometime soon.
Absolutely. Gotta make it happen.
Okay, let's do it. So,
Feedback.
David Crespin, you are obviously listening. We see you. And we will get in touch with you about having you on the program next week.
There we go.
All right, good deal. Looks like Scott, hey CB, 118 U.S. Law Shield seminars. All right, good deal. We've got the comment section blowing up. This is a marvelous episode. It's great, only because I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy our listeners who are participating in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas.
There we go.
Okay. What do you say, Russ?
Yeah.
Move on to clip number 2.
Sure. This is one that I put together. I didn't know like if you wanted the entire speech, so I just cut it down to his thoughts regarding the Second Amendment and then added my own thing to the end. So here we go.
And I might add, the Second Amendment from the day it was passed limited the type of people who could own a gun and what type of weapon you could own. You couldn't buy a cannon. Those who say the blood of patriots, and all the stuff about how we're going to have to move against the government. Well, the tree of liberty is not water with the blood of patriots. What's happened is that there never been, if you want to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons.
Why the f you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God! Stop fucking lying.
Get us popped off on copyright with that song.
No, this song is used in a whole bunch of videos. I think we'll be fine.
Wow. Yeah, we'll be all right.
But it doesn't matter because YouTube sucks anyway. So
that is hysterical.
Wow. Yeah, you can find us on Rumble if they decide to take this down for the stupid. We use 10 seconds of a video, and this whole 3 hours it belongs to someone else.
Maybe Rumble, gargle or something like that. That is hysterical. So, first of all, not even getting into the ships and everything like that from back in the day when government involvement with private use of these kinds of heavy weaponry.
We're gonna need cannons if we're up against F-15s, right?
I'm getting an F-15.
Right? Well, so that's another thing. Is that really true? That kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. No, the fact that he was saying that. Russ, I'll let you take the floor because it's really something that you mentioned in the thread. I don't want to steal anything from you.
Oh, so Biden was talking about you don't need so the Second Amendment apparently limits who can get what and blah, 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 blah. And by the way, your guns are useless because we have airplanes and nukes. Hands up, don't nuke. I took that from Ben Shapiro. He just put out a video that said that. I love his titles. Hands up, don't nuke, which is great. But it kind of solidifies why exactly we need the guns, because even so, it was pointed out to me that during the insurrection of January 6th, it was just a bunch of Trump supporters that stormed the Capitol, and I would say a fair amount of those probably weren't armed. Maybe some of them were carrying, maybe it was concealed, but I don't think they needed arms to just overwhelm the Capitol with massive numbers of people. You can overwhelm anybody with a massive number of people. And so I mean, we may not need it necessarily, but imagine I gotta be careful with my words here. The YouTubes might take us down.
We're getting
imagine
some good
if you
comments
will
here on YouTube.
Oh yeah, what's going on out there?
Well, first of all, CB says, "Come on, man, he's not lying. Ask Corn Pop." Scott says, "Sleepy Joe has never been a patriot, so he wouldn't know what patriots' blood was shed for."
Oh,
absolutely. And
Joe...
Jeremy says, "You could buy a cannon when the Constitution was written." Merchant ship owners asked if they could have cannons to defend themselves. Thomas Jefferson said, "Yes, they can. Second Amendment and all." Oh, that's what I was talking about, the letters of marque or reprisal. This goes back a long time.
Well, you know what? I don't recall anywhere in the Second Amendment saying that you can't have a cannon. So I'm not an expert, Mike, but is there anything in the Second Amendment saying that I can't have a cannon? I may not know how to use one.
Right?
Right, and if it's not expressly forbidden.
But does something just inherently irritate you about the government saying, "Don't even try because we will destroy you"?
If anything, he's arguing that then we need F-15s and other,
I'm
afraid AR-15s.
We do need those things.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna get my own I'm gonna get my own F-15. I'm gonna get my own nukes, and I'm gonna create my own island, and I'm gonna live with Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, there you go. See, that's the solution. And I'm pretty sure the Second Amendment was designed for a president
for exactly that purpose.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. That's.
Why do you need guns? Exactly this reason.
Right. Yeah. Like right now.
You just spelled it out.
The first year I opened up my own practice, I was in Delaware, out on the beach visiting somebody, and there was this shop out there where they have all these different signs. And at Thomas Jefferson, the beauty of the Second Amendment is you won't need it until they try to take it away. Right?
Yeah, I've seen that in your office. I think you have that in your office.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Now, I've never been able to independently confirm that he actually said that, but the sign is good. The photo is so cool. I had to go ahead and get that. I think I got Gilbert one of those as well. Jerry Miller said apparently Biden hasn't heard of a place called Afghanistan where we've been fighting guys in flip-flops armed with 50-year-old and homemade AKs.
Yeah,
all right?
good point.
Very good point. Vietnam people always bring up as well. So that whole tired argument of, we're not going to do the Second Amendment thing at all because you don't have what we have, and we're just going to kill all of you if you.
Right. Yeah.
If we want, we could really kill every single last one of you. So you don't need no stinking Second Amendment.
But don't worry, it's not tyrannical. You don't need those guns, especially the shooty ones.
We'll never be tyrannical, so you don't need the Second Amendment. But if we want to kill each and every last one of you, we can within the blink of an eye, and
we can
there's
just
nothing
flatten
you can do
you.
about it.
Yeah.
It's like,
We're
okay.
going to use the UFOs anyway. So.
Yeah,
It's like Ron Burgundy. That escalated quickly.
Right. Yeah. I immediately regretted that decision.
I immediately regret that decision.
So I don't know what the Newsmax clip is about, but I do have a video in support of gun control.
And I think the Newsmax video was, Simon duplicated. So I think we don't have to watch that. Go to clip number 3.
Yeah.
Why don't we see what's behind door number 3?
Door number 3, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you in part by Russ.
Yeah. So this next clip, I want to preface it with.
I like that comment that Jeremy made, not only about Afghanistan, but bringing in, actually, sir, you could buy a cannon back in the day.
Good point. Yeah, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Well, we kind of know that, but I'm surprised he didn't just start talking about his hairy legs,
Scotty says, remember when our founding fathers fought the British, there was no American military. It was just civilians fed up with tyrannical rule who used their guns to fight back against an evil government, and anything they had from cannons to concealed carry was legal and available to them all.
Right.
Yeah, we ought to go through some of the quotes from our founding fathers at that time. We could do that. Maybe next week we'll just do it, but that's certainly something that's valuable to hear what they had to say back then. And
I'm looking in the comments now. Yeah,
they just use factual inaccuracies to try to prove their point, though, right?
We could do something like founding fathers firearm facts because everyone loves alliteration.
That's a good one.
Yes,
that's a good one.
Russ, you're on fire.
Scott. If you listen to the program We the People, we actually had this discussion this past week about standing armies and, whether it's a good idea to have such a strong standing army in light of that, how easy it could be to become tyrannical. And the way things were back then, as you were mentioning, there was no American military. That's a longer discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But interesting point that you bring up there. Why don't you hit us with that clip, Russ?
All right. So, like I said, I wanted to preface this. It comes from a video also on YouTube made by this channel called Freedom Tunes. They make political cartoon animations. And,
you've been sending us quite a few of those lately.
Yeah. I want to give them credit. So definitely. Definitely the droplets, not the droplets.
We have to cut this show up
Jimmy.
and put it out as little clips this week somehow.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to get Simon. All the interviews I think should be cut up.
Oh yeah. That's what I plan to do. That's whenever you do your transition, that's when I do that. But I do.
Jeremy says the guys at Wall Builders in Texas have a lot of historical documents from the country's founding. A little bit of a WFYL tie there.
Yep.
And
so
Barton did a special event with us. How long ago was that at this point, Russ? Do you remember?
That
feels like yesterday because we lost a year and something and changed to the pandemic.
That was September 2019, I believe. Just before it was in the before times.
Oh, the before times.
So Barton
before they took over. No. So if you like this video, go over to Freedom Tunes, show them some love. Tell them Mike G sent you, or just say zucchini. So
yeah,
we'll know. Be sure and tell them Russ, the producer, sent you.
Yeah, tell them you were sent here. by some other fans. So yeah, this one I think this one was made like 4 years ago. Here we go.
Let's roll.
Is it playing? Here we go.
Killer. Or why you should support gun control and why the only people who don't want restrictions on the Second Amendment are child-killing right-wing bigots.
Look, I believe just as much as the next guy in protecting our children, but gun restrictions have proven to be ineffective. In the words of Ben Franklin, those who would trade safety for liberty deserve neither and will lose both.
Ben Franklin was a brainwashed NRA bigot. Plus, if the founding fathers were so smart, how come they're dead? Gun violence, that's why. Did you hear about the most recent mass shooting? Let me stand on graves and manipulate your emotions for a moment. The shooting was done with an AR-15, also known as the ghost gun. Called that because it turns people into ghosts. The AR-15 ghost gun has a 2 trillion round clip, fires 500,000 bullets per microsecond, and if you think that's bad, you haven't even heard about the bullet button. One press of that sucker and you unlock the cheat code for unlimited ammo and invincibility. Even worse, free AR-15s are being distributed with every pre-order of Call of Duty, and AR-15 ghost guns are being delivered to mental health facilities by the NRA as part of their Kill Children program.
The preceding information may be entirely untrue.
We need to do something about automatic weaponry.
Actually, fully automatic weapons are illegal and have been illegal for many years, and most crime isn't committed with AR-15s, it's handguns.
Plus, violent crime has been decreasing for years. And almost all of gun violence is the product of gang violence in leftist-run cities. The likelihood of actually being killed in a mass shooting is extremely low. Extremely low? Have you not heard there were 355 mass shootings in the U.S. this year? 355? That's ludicrous. Who would believe that? Well, NPR, PBS, HuffPo, Vox, Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC, and CBS believe it. Where did they get this information? From Reddit, so you know it's trustworthy. The info came from a subreddit which was turned into a website called MassShootingTracker.org. Take a look at these terrible shootings. Oh, and almost half of them, not a single person died. It's almost like they weren't actually mass shootings. Wow, it looks like America has the safest mass shootings in the world. In fact, our mass shootings are so safe that we're willing to call 3 or more people being shot with a BB gun a mass shooting. In the U.S., there have been 14 trillion mass shootings in the last half hour. But it doesn't have to be that way. Look at Australia. Australia is a land where everything is trying to kill you. Except guns, of course, because they got rid of them. Huzzah for Australia, a country which saw a plummet in violence after its gun ban. Ignore the fact that this is a continuing trend in which gun violence in Australia was decreasing at an identical rate before guns were banned. And seriously, who needs an AR-15 for hunting? Or self-defense? A simple handgun works. You don't need a ghost gun.
Well, actually, the AR-15 is one of the most popular hunting rifles, and they're great for home defense, too. Not only that, but inner-city shop owners especially need AR-15s to protect their stores and families in case of riots when journalists irresponsibly rile up racial tensions.
Ugh, it's justified outrage. Get over it.
Look, not only are you losing the arguments on home defense and hunting, but even if you weren't, the Second Amendment isn't about those things. It's about the ability to rebel against tyranny.
That's paranoid and insane. The government will never become tyrannical.
What do you think of Donald Trump?
He's literally Hitler. He wants to put Muslims and women in FEMA camps. The Constitution was talking about the militia, by the way, not the people. And militia translates to government military.
What? No, it doesn't. The people are the militia. And why would any government need to give itself the right to own guns in a founding document?
I'm done with this conversation, you right-wing, pro-NRA, anti-child, anti-woman, death-loving bigot. You may have been taken in by these pro-violence hate facts, but I have enough faith in the public to trust that they will believe the objective and logical truths I propose. Guns are icky. The government was giving itself the right to own guns with the Second Amendment. AR-15s are useless for home defense and hunting, but are also the most dangerous and effective killing machines ever created. Governments never become tyrannical. Trump is Hitler, and if he wins, our government will become tyrannical. And if by some stretch you're able to poke holes in any of these airtight arguments, get ready for me to fall back on this. The Constitution is a living document, which means it says whatever I want it to say. The NRA disagrees. They think the Constitution is dead. Why? Because they shot it, that's why. But it survived. The question is, will our children survive?
Hey guys, it's Freedom Tunes. Thanks so much
There
for
you go,
watching.
Freedom Tunes.
If you like watching leftist nonsense get destroyed and made fun of in animated form, subscribe on YouTube and like us on Facebook. If you really like watching leftist nonsense get destroyed, donate on Patreon to help me make more cartoons. Thank you so much.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
And don't forget to show them some love.
Show them some love.
Don't forget to tune in. Don't forget to freedom tune in.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. They put some work into that.
Yeah.
That was funny. That
Yeah.
was definitely
I
funny.
love their stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it just shows you how ridiculous things are. So,
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
if you look at the facts.
Yeah.
What facts?
Well, you know, the ones.
Oh,
they
I
wanna-
do want to say something about it. And one thing did stand out at me about the video, though. Philly Chris, did you notice the guy said automatic weapons are already illegal?
Right. That's right. Yeah.
That's what he said. What do you think about that?
Well, technically, it's not true because you
Yeah.
can get one with the appropriate permitting. So, but
There-
yeah, so that's true. That's a good point.
They're covered under the National Firearms Act, and also because of the Hughes Amendment, can't have us common peasants can't own one that's manufactured post that date in May of 1986, and otherwise, you get one pre-86.
Yeah.
You can go through the process of the National Firearms Act. Pay your tax, get your tax stamps, submit your paperwork, and you got to pay a premium though, right? Because
Yeah.
every fully automatic weapon in the country that people like you and I can lawfully own has
Right.
been in existence since before I was born.
Yeah. Right. That's an
Right?
interesting way to. Yeah. The facts around it are pretty interesting.
So when you got that limited supply,
Yeah. They go for a fair amount of money too, as most gun owners know who've looked into it. Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
they ain't
pretty
cheap.
valuable.
That. But he is absolutely correct that you don't see crimes committed with these things. It just
Right.
doesn't happen.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the conclusion on the automatic firearms is they are technically legal under the right permits, but effectively illegal because they're very expensive and hard to get.
Right.
Very expensive, hard to get as a result of that.
Yeah.
They're highly regulated. We can put it that way.
That too.
Right?
So
highly regulated.
functionally,
Can't they come
it
and
may
check
as
on
well
it
be
at any
illegal.
time,
Not
Mike, right?
technically, it's not technically a permit. You got to register. You got to go through a process with the federal government where you pay a special tax. I guess I'm splitting hairs.
Yeah.
But
It's
Yeah.
functionally illegal for almost everybody.
right. Well, maybe practically, right? Cost
Yeah.
prohibitive for a lot of people.
Trying to find now
cost
how many are out
prohibitive,
there.
and you got to jump
Like,
through a ton of
you know,
hoops, and I'm sure it's just not cheap in general. Yeah, we are
Scott
splitting
says
hairs.
no
they're
expensive
like
permit
more than
needed
a lot
for-
of cars. Yeah.
Scott says no expensive permit needed for a fully automatic zucchini gun. We got to
news,
start
ladies
selling
and
those.
You know
right?
what?
Zucchini
Yeah,
gun.
we should. Yeah.
I think if somebody were to try and purchase one of these, I think the government, because it's got to go through the government, right? Of course it does.
Yeah.
And I think
Special permitting and
you
taxes.
might earn yourself a position on the do not fly list or something.
Yeah, right.
You know, I think there might be a few eyebrows being raised. This guy's getting one of them automatic thingamajigs. We should
I've had
keep
a
an
lot
eye
of
on this
people
guy.
say
Why
that
don't go
over the
bug
years,
his
like,
apartment?
Oh, well, I don't want to do this or this because, then I might end up on a list of some kind. And, many years ago, I got to the point where it's like, oh, yeah, I've decided that if there's a list, I'm already on it. When you're on the radio every week talking about the Second
Right.
Amendment, now talking to crowds of people in person and, on television talking about the Second Amendment, it's like, yeah, that ship has probably sailed.
We're at the top of that special separate list for people like you. Yeah. Mhm.
Imagine if I decided that I was going to just step away and get like a regular job somewhere.
Oh,
they
what
just
would you
Could you
do
imagine
as a
that interview
regular
process,
job?
right? I'm just gonna go work at a regular law firm or get some regular job somewhere. Yeah, that's probably not happening.
Yeah, that's not going to go.
You're gonna
over
give
well
me a
for
job
any-
at one of
any-
the bean
I wouldn't
counting
want
firms.
to do that in a million years,
Sure,
obviously.
sure.
But even if I did, probably no longer an option.
Yeah, and having done it, I don't recommend it really. The way things are
Well,
these days, you'll be
right.
going through all kinds of funny training. Yeah, talking to some friends who are still at these big corporate companies, it's pretty amazing what's going on. I have a friend who told me that recently there's now, I think, tampons in the men's room and stuff. But yeah, that's interesting. I'm not really sure why you need those there, but
So you can take them all from the machine and resell them.
I guess if you're using the different bag, whatever, maybe they need them. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure what's right or wrong with that stuff.
It's probably for the women who go in the men's room because the line in the women's room is too long.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
So just as a backup.
Mm-hmm. Well.
Okay, good deal. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Any other questions from our listeners? We're right at 10 o'clock. We're going to close up shop. Any other
no
questions or anything for the good of the order, gentlemen? Russ, you don't have any PSAs or anything like that about how to maintain your zucchini gun?
Well, I personally don't have a zucchini gun.
You don't?
No.
I'm very disappointed in you.
I have a mustard gun.
Mustard.
No, I think if I was to earn some kind of award, it would be a nacho cheese award. That way I could, actually enjoy it. I don't really like mustard.
Well, let's start to put together a list of locations we will go to film at a range.
Yeah. And then you, me, and Chris got to have Halo night at some point.
Oh, now we're talking.
Don't think I forgot about that.
Mike's like, wait a minute, how do we get out of that one? No, that'd be fun.
Russ had me playing video games first time since I was a kid, so
that's cool. Yeah,
that'll be fine.
What is it? Is this like Mario?
Seriously though, let's go to some different locations. We'll pick one. One in the Lehigh Valley, one in the 5-county area, one in the Harrisburg area. And if anybody else has got any other ideas of where we need to hit,
Mike,
we'll do it.
Mike,
we'll make a couple of videos out of it.
If you're planning on dragging me along, it's got to be all expenses paid.
What's that?
If you're gonna plan on bringing me along, it's got to be all expenses paid.
Of course, Russ. Of course.
You mean you're paying for us?
No.
It's very generous.
That is very sweet.
You heard it here first.
Free mustard for everybody.
Good deal. Are we good to go?
Free mustard on the house.
Great show, guys. Yeah, thanks to everybody out there for listening and participating. What a great show.
Yeah, thank you to the people on YouTube. Thank you for the people on Twitch.
We love having everybody participate and get involved with the questions, the comments. You make us laugh just as much as we make you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Just great show. Love having the listeners come on board. Richard Roberts, Simon Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll have everybody back on again soon.
And the Freedom Tunes. Don't forget those guys. We should reach out to them.
Hey, why not? Let's do it.
Thanks for tuning in. That's all the time we got for today. Stick around for We the People, the Constitution Matters. Pastor David Whitney, Professor Phil Duffy. I'll be joining as your legal analyst. This one's for you, Ellie. Daddy loves ya.